ended the runs of so many hopeful foreigners.
We're going to get right on into it, Ravi. Starting off on Pride of Altaris. Spawning over in the top left, representing Clash, it is Reynor.
And down here in the bottom right-hand corner of the map, we have the blue Zerg player from Dragon Phoenix Gaming. He is Dark.
Yeah, definitely going to be a good one on here. Pride of Altaris. It's not a map you super often see during a tournament, and especially when you only have one veto, or rather two vetoes. But now we're just down to one veto apiece, and both these players already up to gold base shenanigans, which isn't super weird for ZVZ. It's one of the reasons that a lot of players like to avoid this map playing against Zerg. But yeah, there's not really any super way to punish it, I don't feel. But yeah, they're both going to go with it anyhow.
That's absolutely going to be the case, and it is a bit interesting because what it means is that as Zerg players facing off against other Zerg players, your gold bases are going to be the most forward vulnerable location, right? But it's also the point of your production as Zerg. So both of these players are going to have an interesting dynamic where some of their reinforcements are going to be coming in from the gold base really, really fast if they want to get aggressive. And then some of their units are actually going to take a bit of time. They're going to have to run through the map. And if we end up seeing some really fast, early-paced aggression from both these players, which, I don't know, if you just look at the distance between these two gold bases, I feel like it's bound to happen. It is going to be a really, really strange kind of a set of engagements there.
Yeah, and you might be wondering, like, oh, why don't people do this on Blackburn then? There's gold base on that map. On this map, slightly different. The gold base actually has 8 patches to start off with. So not only is it almost equal to a, normal blue base where you have the 6 mineral patches, it's actually far, far better. So both players respecting one another. Both of them transferring quite a few drones. I don't know how many over here for Dark. He was a little slower to it by the looks of it. So Raynor catching a little bit of a lead here just when it comes to a bit of the economy game, but it feels like Dark did transform more. Oh no, it's just looking at it, look. Raynor's actually going to be mining quite a bit more already, so maybe just a few extra things in his mix there that just gave him a little bit of an edge.
Yeah. I do want to mention the last time these two players faced off against each other again, TSL 8, this was the second map played, and I do remember Reynor and Dark getting into very, very action-packed Ling, Baneling micro. I believe Reynor was the one that did end up coming out on top just actually with really, really solid micro. So I think that's something we're going to be on the lookout for as Baneling nests do come down. A lot of Lings being started up for both of these players, and I think the thing to keep an eye out on is going to be, are either one of these players going to be adding on any drones at any point in the near future?
It's about when you pull the trigger. Like we've all seen Dark against Serral, where it's like, you know what, I'm going to test you with a 12 pull, drone pull, doing the spine crawlers, and it didn't work out. But then in that second game, he was actually testing Serral throughout everything, and Pig likes to call it a bit of a noob check, kind of. But pulling that off at this level, it's crazy. But we do see already both of these players going for quite a few Lings, and this is where it can start to get a little bit spicy in your ZVZ.
Yeah, kind of cool or interesting that Raynor is starting up more drones behind all of this. So he is going to be the first one to start adding on drones to try and get up some sort of follow-up, but that is going to mean that some of that extra larva is not going to be Lings and Banelings. He needs to take good trades with these Banelings of his own. He's the one also getting aggressive and getting really, really far onto Dark side of the map. But the Baneling run by over here, Raynor does not notice it. All of those extra drones he just made going to be going to waste effectively. He's going to still be caught up, but now that army supply is so important to keep alive for Raynor.
That was definitely a big blow, but looking at all the stats. Oh, counter damage done. Yeah, I was looking at all the stats and I was like, it still doesn't seem that bad for Raynor, actually. One Baneling does run in here, which will soften up a lot of these drones, so now Raynor knows where the next attack from Dark is going to probably appear. And now it only needs just a handful of Lings to deal damage to those, because they're all in the red, but yeah, drone-wise, army-wise, it looks pretty good for Raynor so far.
Yeah, Raynor actually just got another Baneling connection and picked off 4 extra drones there just off camera. And we're going to end up seeing more of these Banelings trying to zone Raynor back. Does he have any Banelings of his own? He's going to start morphing some in. Needs to control well against these remaining Banelings of Dark. The Queen's going to come forward and try to get some extra pot shots off. Don't quite manage to pick them off, and it's going to have a hard time chasing off of creep, but more drones going to be going down. Just a single drone there for those two banelings of Reynor.
That was actually a really good pick-off with the Queen there, because it made one of the banelings blow up, and then it was like, all right, can't waste the other bane, just might as well go for the one drone, at least get something out of there. But Dark's actually adding on additional roaches already. So this, they're really utilizing the short distance between both these gold bases and going to go for the kill.
This is going to be a vital moment here. Whether or not these roaches are effective is going to have a huge impact, because Raynor's up almost 10 workers. And that is an insane amount given their worker counts right now. That's a 33% boost in your economy. So what Dark is going to be relying on is these roaches to do a lot of extra work here to really start evening out this game and give him a potential to come back. Reynor is continuing to drone behind this. Does he realize how much trouble he's going to be in soon? He sees the roaches. He starts up some spine crawlers immediately.
The spine crawler was instant there. He reacted so damn quickly. Still ahead in supply, but that's going to be a lot of roaches on his front door, killing a lot more drones. Look at that count, 40 to 17. As long as he survives, I think even if he loses his goal pace at this point, he's going to be in good shape. But that's another story. These banelings, they're looking for these connections, and dancing around the baneling is Reynor, sniping it off as well. A few queens will fall at this gold, but he's getting his own roaches out now, Ravi, and Dark, he doesn't have much left in the tank.
Reynor is up in army supply. He's up in worker supply. Actually, this is insane. Reynor making an insanely good hold. The economy really starting to kick in. And here in game number 1, Reynor is chasing Dark back. The man who was effectively all in off of this, who had to do something with his attack, is getting pushed on back by the roaches of Reynor. The economy of Reynor is just too strong now.
I mean, look at the supply. 84 to 48 right here. Almost mining 2 to 3K more than him, or rather 2 to 3 times more. That is insanity. Dark can't be feeling too good. He doesn't seem phased on the camera, but holy crap. He needs a lot of things to go his way. And Reynor just getting a little cheeky scout through his base, and it's like, wow, you're in worse shape than I thought you were. And Reynor's probably feeling uber confident at this point.
Yeah, I can just imagine how Raynor's thinking around. It was like, I knew that you were dead, but I didn't realize how dead you were in this game. Really got to be feeling happy about how this has gone so far now. Dark is going to continue to try and play this out, see if he can make something happen. You can see just in the unit count, 18 roaches to 5 is going to make things very difficult. Now, baneling run by over here. We're going to look to try and get some damage on. You can imagine 1 or 2 good baneling connections in a saturated mineral line. Maybe you get 10, 15 drones. Things do start to even up pretty quickly, but that army supply advantage is going to be the really difficult thing to overcome, because Reynor, he's not going to give Dark, 10 more minutes to try and come back in this game. He is seeing that this is now the opportunity where his economy is paid off enough, and he's going for the kill.
I can't believe he even eked out more drones while this was going on. Up to 47 now, doubling the supply. Dark, yeah, you saw it on his face. GG called. Reynor takes a very convincing game 1 here.
Extremely convincing game number 1. And I would actually say, Ben, that it didn't feel like that was off the back of extremely superior micro or anything. It felt like it was really good larva management of what units he was making when, his positioning on the attack to pull Dark a little bit further back, and also some of the scouting information that he was able to get to identify that roach attack and know exactly when he really needed to cut the drones.
It was just ice cold, no mistakes from Reynor. Like some of the, I say that, but the initial baneling detonation on his gold base, I was like, oh damn, maybe he's in trouble. Then I looked at all the numbers and I was like, no, he's actually totally fine. Then he got his own counter damage done. And it was like, wow, I'm actually not sure how you're doing this, but a few little edges here and there from Reynor. His build was a little bit cleaner, got to the goal base a little bit faster, and yeah, just very well played by Reynor. But Dark can't let this throw him off too much, because of the maps in the pool, this is definitely one of the weirder ones when it comes to ZVZ.
There is no map that is going to be played in this best of 5 that is anything like Pride of Altaris. So Dark can take some comfort in the fact that that is going to very much so be a one-off game. No game should look quite like that one. There's no bases that I expect to be taken in the center of the map in quite that manner. So as we head into game number 2, Raynor's just going to be sitting up on a comfortable 1-0. And now I think the true test of who is going to be better in the ZVZ matchup is actually going to be beginning.
Absolutely, Hardwire it is, and spawning over in the top right, representing Clash and Red Bull, it is Reynor.
And down here in the bottom left-hand side of the map, we have the blue Zerg player representing Team Dragon Phoenix Gaming. He is Dark.
Or as Pig would say,
Dark.
Absolutely a big fan is Pig, and look at the crowd filling up. Oh, I wonder who they're cheering on. I have a slight sneaking suspicion that it might be the young Italian here.
Yeah, a little closer to home for Reynor, I would say, over Dark. It's a bit more of a journey for Dark and a lot of his fans to make it out over here, but I know that there are definitely some Dark fans out there. Koreans absolutely showing up for this event as well.
Oh, absolutely. 5 Zergs left, 3 Terrans remain. All the Protoss are gone. Basically comes down to raw mechanics and who is the fastest, the most precise, and the best StarCraft 2 player on the planet, and who's going to do it.
Would you have it any other way, Ben?
Absolutely not. I wish the Protoss died sooner, honestly, Remy. But
well, not so much that part, but you know.
No, I'm looking at like this series between these two, because in my head, these two are players that can absolutely plant themselves in a position where they're behind, but come back in their own special kind of ways, which makes them both insanely special players. Some of the ways that Dark's played in this tournament, such as against Showtime, he did it in his own way. Against Trap, absolutely in his own way, bringing out these peculiar but raw power builds. And when it comes to late game management, both these guys are super damn good as well. So I'm definitely, and in fact, whenever I see Dark against Rogue, I'm always like, wow, if Rogue's going to win, it's usually in the early to mid game. But as soon as it gets late game, Dark is amazing at it. So if we see any of those games in this series, he might be the first Zerg that's really going to put Reynor to the test.
Yeah, I like the way that Harsum said it. It's not even necessarily that Dark is always making what I think by standard thought processes around the current meta is the smartest decision, but he just has this amazing intuition about the game and being able to identify situations, even if he is falling behind in the earlier stages, to just make some miraculous comebacks later on, to really make the most of situations that seemed like it wasn't going to be possible. And I think that is going to be his big superpower he can find as the game goes a little bit later into it.
Yeah, they're both very decisive players, like super decisive, and very often in StarCraft 2, let's say there's 5 options to make, they're all pretty okay, but as long as you go with one full march ahead, it can be a pretty good one. And both these guys, they're very good at that, which that can make it very crazy in which way they really go about things, because it can be like, we saw Dark go up against Serral, and I thought the second game, actually, he had super good chance. I was speaking with Rotterdam about it, but yeah, it just didn't go his way. But going up against Reynor, 1-0 down, we already see a lot of lings being made for Reynor, and this is usually to be safe, getting to spot out your opponent, making sure that they're being safe and honest and what have you. But yeah, it's going to start.
Yeah, that is quite a few Zerglings to be making right now. Ling is going to end up going down over there. Reynor getting a nice little pick off, especially since he is making all these Lings of his own. It'll be nice to have a bit of extra firepower there that he doesn't have to deal with. Now, some of the Banelings being morphed in over here. It looks like one of them got canceled. The second Baneling is going to start waddling its way on over. Dark has a pretty solid wall set up, but is his third base going to be quite as well established? Baneling number 1 does go off, and it looks like the Banelings from Dark are going to try and zone out these Zerglings for Reynor.
So far, a decent early game from Dark, honestly. Whoa, where do those Banelings come from? But yeah, Dark's doing very good with his queens here. This is just 2 queens and a handful of Lings holding this off, obviously with the Banelings and whatnot. But Reynor did get to scout that Evo, which at this point it can be like, are you going for Carapace? Which is obviously really good if you want to do a hatchery tech push, which Reynor is aware of. He is a smart player, going for lair tech of his own here, and also going for an Evo. So we might see a very big all-in at tier 1 from Dark.
Yeah, it's definitely looking like that might be in the cards for him, given just the Carapace upgrade being one of those good indicators of some kind of earlier game aggression. Reynor has already started up that layer, and you can also see Dark definitely a lot further behind in regard to that, thanks to all the gas that he had to invest to both Carapace upgrade, as well as even just those extra Banelings he had to make on the defensive.
And look at that. Dark queued up about 5 Overlords there, and whoa, Reynor's going for +1 melee against this. That is a really funny call. I'm not sure how it's going to work out for him, but Dark, I wouldn't be surprised here if we just see like 10, 12 Roaches queued up ASAP, because we see that he's got the supply for it, and yeah, they do start. And what that +1 carapace does is it just means that all your units survive way, way, way more, makes the Lings, the Roaches worse, and especially the Queens. But Reynor going for a Spire here, so he's going to be heading into Mutas. This could get very, very spicy for the young Italian.
I think the name of the game over here is going to be the longer Reynor survives, the more his tools that he's investing into are going to come into effect. Reynor has a superior economy. He has a +1 melee upgrade to negate the Carapace upgrade coming out, but it is a lot further behind. He has a Spire that's going to be able to shut down a lot of these units, but it is going to take some time. 5 Spine Crawlers getting started up as Reynor also tries to go for a Ling run by past this army. He's just trying to draw the army back right now for Dark, and Dark is saying, well, I'll happily trade against a lot of this army supply, but is Reynor going to be buying himself enough time?
I think they both know exactly what's up, right? Those 6 Spine Crawlers, classic move. He bought actually so many seconds there in the middle of the map, and Dark, he knows he has to go, go, go here, so keeping just a smidge of his army behind, just the Lings, by the way. They do have the Carapace upgrade. Reynor cancelled his melee upgrade as well, realizing what was going on. He needs the minerals, he needs the gas, and he's doing such a good job of buying time, but how much time does he really have? Mutas are starting here. Banelings are being produced by Dark as well. Oh, I don't know what's going to happen.
It looks like Dark is also just going to forego the third base. He knows that he has to pretty much go for the jugular. He sends a few Lings over there, starting to knock down the wall. The Bailey's coming, rolling on forward. They can't quite connect with the Spine Crawlers just yet. They finally get in range as the Queen wall starts to dissipate. But these Spine Crawlers are holding the line here for Reynor. Mutas are finally starting to pop out. They're going to start working away at those Banelings and Roaches. And it seems like Reynor's ace in the hole over here for the defense is starting to come forward. But is it a little bit too late? Can he do enough damage to this army? It looks like the answer is going to be yes for the moment.
I mean, so many Lings coming in, but nah, look at that. Equal supply against a Muta player. Didn't even take out a single hatchery. Behind in tech, behind in everything. Lair just starts up now. Or in fact, he did take out that hatch at the third, so that was actually decent. But right now, if you're in Reynor's shoes, it's like, wow, everything I did worked out miraculously. And Reynor's got himself into a very nice position here. Dark's going to have to play that slow, turtley style, lose all his overlords on the map. And he's going to have to tech up to something like Infestors, Lurkers, and play the real slow game.
Yeah, really funny decision from Dark, by the way, as, of course, the Mutas are going to have total map control right now. There's nothing to contest them. I actually see Dark sending his overlords further out onto the map instead of pulling them back or just leaving them be. So that is going to be quite a few dead overlords that Reynor can pick off. And that is just extra resources that Dark is going to have to reinvest into. You can see Dark finally finishing up that lair tech as well. He's trying to get Lings to run around, buy time against the Mutas, because he is trying to just turtle up right now. He added on a bunch of drones. He's adding on an infestation pit. He's thinking about how to deal with the late game situation that Reynor's going to be setting himself into.
Yeah, you can tell that Reynor's being very respectful of this, by the way. Eking out just a few battle units here, Lings and more Mutas, which he can absolutely deal damage with, but he was really respecting Dark's ability to be out on the map with those Lings and get some damage done. But Dark's actually managed to survive a pretty hard phase of the game here, and he is still trying to be annoying out on the map, which Reynor's doing a good job of shutting down. And Dark's even eking out a little bit of a drone lead here, which is surprising because it's the Muta guy that's being able to have the map and be aggressive. Oh, juicy Lucy.
That's actually going to be very nice for Reynor because he doesn't really need to keep the Mutas at home anymore. And even that third base, I want to note, was a little bit lower on hit points. There aren't a ton of Spore Crawlers over there. I think I saw 1 or 2 Spore Crawlers in the area. What is the Queen count at right now? I know the Infestors are on the way. We do have those 7 Queens that can try and act as that defense against the Mutas in conjunction with the Spores. But I am seeing some opportunities here where Reynor can try and stretch Dark a little bit more thin.
I've got to say, Dark's got himself out of this situation real damn well. Like, he's going to have 2-1 units, like, upgrade-wise. These Infestors going to be timed with that Pathogen Glands perfectly as well. Going for Hydra upgrades here at Lurkers. Normally, it's so hard to get anything going because he's so under threat, but he bought himself so much time. Both these Zerg players playing very intelligently with the tools that they're given.
And it's a tough situation to be in. I think one of the big questions for Dark, besides, you know, replenishing all the overlords that the mutas are still picking off, is going to be how do you move out eventually? That is always one of the toughest questions against this kind of number of mutas, because you might have the tools to take the mutas on a direct engagement, but you really need to make sure that they can't just counterattack you, deal damage until you move across the map, force you into an all-in position, and then come back home to try and defend.
Yeah, the question for Dark is which fourth base does he take? I guess he goes for the slightly more forward one over here that our observer is showing us, which is quite close to the rest of it. So it's a nice map to actually kind of creep your way out of it. Hive on the way. Lots of banelings now being made for Reynor. Maybe going to be looking to be a little bit aggressive, get those baneling run-bys going into the bases and stuff, but it's so hard to do when your opponent's so turtled up like Dark is. Dark's playing it really smart.
He really is, and with the Lurker Den now finished up as well, it's actually going to make things like baneling run-bys a little bit more difficult to do. Snipe off on the Lurker that was morphing in on that high ground. Nicely done. I want to actually say, oh boy, those banelings find the opportunity, past all the roaches, sniping off the third hatchery. That's a big deal, because remember, we were talking about how difficult it was going to be to take a fourth base as Dark. Dark is on 2 bases right now, Ben.
He certainly is, and Reynor's feeling confident enough to take out these spores over here as well. And oh, that's a little bit of a cheeky fungal. Nice split in the slow of it, but a few mutas will die. But overall, Reynor's going to be happy with these trades, I would imagine. And oh my goodness, banelings absolutely everywhere. Just, he's the demolition man, but he has to be careful. We can't get carried away, because that Zerg army of Dark, it's getting Vipers in the mix as well. One fungal parasitic bomb, and goodbye, Mutalisks.
Yep, this is a very dangerous style that Reynor is going to be playing, as long as he's just purely on the firepower of banelings and mutas. These banelings, like I was saying before, not going to have as easy of a time as before, thanks to those lurkers well set up. We're already seeing additional spine crawlers or creep tumors being thrown on down over here. Spore crawlers also being made and try and solidify the defensive position. Reynor's gameplay here is all going to be about trying to take as many, or throw as many hits at Dark as possible, knowing that he has a superior economy, and continue to keep Dark's economy as low as possible.
I love how Dark's defending all of this, by the way. And now the Vipers are out. Reynor's luckily seen it. I think he knew about the Hive on the way anyhow. And Reynor, by the way, he went for the +1 melee, but I think he's realized he's not dealing the damage he wanted, and he's being very mature about his response as well. He's like, you know what? I'm gonna catch up on those Lurker and Hydra upgrades myself, get to my own Hive, start the switch. Because if you're turtling as good as Dark, if you get to a situation where you've got Lurkers against Ultralists in the endgame, you bet ya, Lurkers are way, way better. Getting his own Vipers out as well now is Reynor. I love it from both of them.
Reynor doing a great job getting set up for the later stages of the game. And like you said, a mature decision to say, I don't need to win right now. I can win off of the advantage I have right now later on. Went ahead, get more ahead, and that's exactly what Reynor is doing. And we are seeing that Dark is able to establish a little bit more forward of a hatchery. He is finally getting a bit more mining going, and the mutas are going to have a harder time actually trying to deny a whole lot over here. They can maybe try and pick away at some of the outskirt bases, but those parasitic bombs are very, very deadly. Thankfully, Reynor is one of the fastest players in all of StarCraft 2. He can pick away those mutas that get parasitic bombed in an instant.
Yeah, barely did any damage to that muta flock, and Reynor's just adding on more Vipers right now. I think Dark is actually totally in the dark as to what Reynor's doing behind all this. We have to remember, Reynor did go for that +1 melee upgrade, which if you see that as Dark, you could assume that he's going to commit. Quite a lot of players can be a little boneheaded with that, but this Viper count, it might actually catch Dark super off guard here.
Yeah, Viper's going to be a very solid way to deal with the lurker count that Dark has been going for. Dark is so defensively set up right now, getting so many of those spores, even adding on again additional spines, adding on a few more Vipers, but we're hitting the point where both of these players are nearly maxed out right now, and Reynor's again still going to have a better economy off the back of all of this, but when is going to be that big moment for Dark where he says, okay, I feel comfortable starting to find a way to push out? Because I'll tell you one thing, if he was waiting for a creep spread or slow advancement to Reynor's side of the map, it is going to take quite a bit of time.
What's cool about this situation is how we got here. Like, Dark kind of went for that big all-in off the hatchery tech, but I did talk about it earlier. Dark, when he goes up against Rogue late game, he actually looks so damn good of it. Like, sometimes he makes Rogue look silly in that matchup, which is crazy to think about with how good Rogue is. But going up against Reynor in the late game, which we're getting to now, and they both went about it in their very own individualistic ways, it's going to be cool. They're going to both put each other to the test for maybe the first time, really, in this tournament.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how things are actually going to shake out over here. Dark going to have to still make sure his defenses are on point, even as he starts to take some of those bases on the right-hand side, that those Baneling run-bys can still be deadly. I like that Dark is finally getting a little bit of vision out on the map, thanks to the Changeling, runs on forward, confirms the location of this, and wow, what a fast response. That is a direct target fire from that Spine Caller, by the way. Would not have it just naturally attacked a Changeling like that.
Yeah, and he was telling me he doesn't practice Archon mode in ZVZ either, but obviously Reynor is ridiculously quick. The big upgrades now coming online for Reynor. Dark still has no idea, but he has to be thinking that, yeah, Reynor's slowed down quite a chunk here, because these Banelings, even though they're still popping in here, hasn't been even remotely as crazy, and maybe clicking on those upgrades as well, it's like, you're not getting that +2, and +2, that's how you one-shot the drone, so obviously knowing that something else is up.
Yeah. That's going to be a pretty good giveaway for sure. And just more Spine Crawlers being thrown down here for Dark. Dark is actually taking a full-on Maru approach and saying, yep, at some point, you're going to get tired of waiting around and you're going to come attack me. And that is when I will be ready, because I will have so many spores and so many spines available. 19 lurkers to 9 as well. As of course, Reynor does have a lot of supplies sunk up in just, 12 Mutalisks and actually a decent number of Hydras as well. He's going to start moving on forward over here. Fungal Growth's coming out on Reynor's side as he is losing quite a few of those Hydras, and the lurkers plus the Vipers are all going to have to start backing off here.
And that was a ballsy play from Reynor, wasn't it? Moving up that ramp like that. And the Mutas, I mean, these are almost dead weight at this point, but you never want to give away units for free. All things said and done, I don't know exactly how that trade went. What are the Viper counts at? So Reynor did lose 2 of his, keeping the ones alive for Dark as well.
Look at the gas lost for both these players. 5,800 to 1,500.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of that could be down to these Banelings as well, which obviously, you trade a little bit inefficiently in the Mutas as well. But yeah, Dark, he's a scary player to go up against, man, because he will play patient. And we do know that Reynor, even though he's been showing that he's a very, very all-round player, he has been known to get a little bit carried away sometimes. And this is a situation where you don't really want to do that.
Yeah, speed can sometimes be the enemy if you aren't able to take a breath, back off and say, well, no, this is maybe not the type of fight that you want to be taking. But so far, I think Reynor, outside of that last engagement, has been doing a pretty good job of things. Muta's going to be making their way on forward, running into the Spore Forest over there, and that is, of course, going to also be another base location that Dark should be able to fairly easily secure in that bottom right-hand side. Even the base just a little bit further north should be not too bad, but a large Hydra count hitting at the same time as this Lurker drop hits the main.
This is so funny by Dark. He's got Spine Crawlers ready in his main for this kind of stuff, and Blinding Clouds go down for Dark here. I mean, Reynor's kind of wrapping around, trying to get some Mutas in, and now the Parasitic Bombs do land on these Vipers. The Abducts land as well. Lots of Queens tanking for Dark. Big Blinding Clouds for Dark as well, pushing Reynor into this corner. And Reynor, he don't want to be here. He's going to try and get out. The Fungals, or rather the Infestors, were a little bit late to the party. He's actually using the Fungals to detect where these Lurkers are. Very cool.
Yeah, lack of Overseer is going to mean that the Fungal Growth is required to get that detection for the burrowed units, and does manage to push Reynor further back. But Reynor, I would actually say, taking some okay trades over there. And this Lurker continuing to harass. He's actually getting some nice connections on a lot of the splash damage attacks that he's doing.
I mean, okay, advantage-wise, Reynor has control of the map. Not because he's got like a bigger, badder, better army. It's merely because of how Dark's posturing. But for all intents and purposes, if Reynor just consumes a lot of the map before Dark gets there, if this does turn into a split map scenario, he's just going to be able to have more. But he has to absorb the map, he has to expand, he has to be crazy, and he has to keep Dark back. So that is what Reynor's trying to do here. So it might look inefficient, but he is technically mining quite a lot more, which we see.
I think to exactly that point, Ben, I think it's going to actually be all the more vital that Reynor mines out the central bases sooner rather than later. And I actually, you know what, the more I think about it, the more I don't even dislike the idea that he transfers some of the workers from the other bases that are maybe further on Reynor's own side of the map, knowing that right now is the moment he has full map control. He does not have to worry about the massive move out there from Dark. He can continue doing these kind of attacks and everything, but mine out with full saturation on those central bases, because those are going to be the ones that when Dark finally feels confident about moving out, are the ones that Dark is going to be having the easiest time trying to disable.
Oh, I love the abducts by Reynor. I also love that Dark tried to plant the blinding clouds to stop the Hydras from shooting his Vipers, but in that little trade there, that definitely went in the favor of Reynor. And Reynor's starting to push, man. It's always difficult to push in these kind of situations. The Fungal's being kind of cheeky here, taking out a Viper or two, but it's so hard to push in. But the Vipers, they give me PTSD against my tanks, but they're doing such a good job for Reynor.
Yep, another parasitic bomb comes out. Ooh, nearly gets 2 of the Vipers over there, but good split off there from Reynor. Finally seeing some of the ducks coming out on Dark's side. Does manage to pick off a couple more of those Vipers. So Reynor is going to actually end up retreating back since his Vipers are both low on energy or, you know, at this point now dead. So Dark gets a little bit of breathing room there. A lot of Vipers going down for both sides, and that is going to be a key unit in these skirmishes.
What a funny situation. Like, I saw Reynor kind of move around in his chair a little bit a few moments ago, and that kind of shows me, like, this isn't the kind of game that he wanted. Even though he's very good at it, having your opponent be like this, it can really come down to one mistake, which Dark, he's ready for this. Like, he's the one that's dictated how this game's going to go from the get-go, be it the all-in. Look at him. He's just bunkering and knuckling down. So many Spore Crawlers here. These Mutas, I'm surprised they're still alive, but they almost don't want to be at this point because they're pretty much useless.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because you're absolutely right. They are useless, and it's so interesting to see how these players are trying to trade off some of that supply. Dark is actually adding on some more drones. I was about to say he went down to the 40s in terms of the drone count thanks to so many spores being made, but he does want to remake them. He does want to still have some decent mining on the bases he has. The Muta's going to sack themselves to try and pick off a couple of drones, and well, they actually find themselves outside the range of the Spore Crawlers since that's exactly where the drones are running. They turn into spores, and it's not just for defensive purposes. I think he might actually go with this.
Wow, Dark, more than prepared for that, actually. So many spores, so many Vipers ready as well to land parasitic bombs and clouds and whatever he could. And look at Reynor, by the way, 5 Vipers at once. What number is he already at? Because this is where having more Vipers in your opponent really does matter. He's going to go up to 10 here, Ravi.
That's going to be pretty solid, and need to make sure you keep those Vipers alive. Wow, this is going to be a nice little angle over here for Reynor as he gets a good blinding cloud, a couple of abducts. The Vipers for Dark were busy trying to gather energy, so now a lot of these Spore Crawlers are going to be going down. This is going to make it a lot easier for Reynor to start pushing on forward. Hydra's fighting versus Queens with tons of transfuses coming on out. Is Reynor going to have enough to bully his way forward? It looks like no. Dark is able to push Reynor back. He gets a bit of a punishment as well as he abducts a couple of those lurkers on the retreat, and Dark, for the first time in a very long time, attacking a building of Reynor, finally getting a little bit aggressive, even if it is in the center of the map.
That was so bad for Reynor, so bad. Look at that gas bank now. Like, now Dark actually has the better gas bank, which is crazy. All those Overseers flew in, the Vipers flew in as well, all died to the Spore Crawlers, maybe needed a few more blinding clouds on those bad boys just to keep those units alive. Then he had no vision of the lurkers either. Dropped down to 120 supply very quickly. Dark's slow, methodical approach to this map, just taking zone by zone, absolutely is a thorn in Reynor's side.
Reynor is starting to mine from both of those gas geysers at that right center base, which is going to be a big deal. The more he can mine from that base, the less is going to be available for Dark if this does go into that mined out map situation. Reynor is also taking that left center base, trying to be as greedy as possible about that. So if he's able to get both of those bases up and mine quite a bit, it is going to make it more difficult for Dark, who has, again, just been trading a little bit more cost efficiently, but it is tough to continue to trade cost efficiently if he has to try and move across the map. That is a lot of Vipers.
I can't remember the last time I saw somebody with 15 Vipers, Ravi. That is absolutely bonkers. Good abducts to start this off, getting out some of those fungal boys in the infestors, and look at that, dealing a lot of damage on both of them, and that is a lot of yoinkage, but that is a lot of Spore Crawlers that deal a lot of damage. Like, Reynor really wants to get Dark out of this game, but Dark just isn't allowing it, and Dark is absolutely playing mental with his own spellcasters.
He is doing a fantastic job with this. Yoinks on both sides. The Hydra's cleaning up the Vipers, and the Spore Crawler's cleaning up the Vipers. How many Vipers do we have left at the end of the day? 7-3, so it does look like Raynor is a little bit further ahead in that Viper count, continuing to yoink away at a couple of these lurkers as well. More Vipers coming out for both sides, but again, these Vipers are very gas intensive. That is going to be a limiting resource for both these players. But Dark, you can look at that mineral bank as he replenishes some of the Hydras that he's had to lose at this point, oftentimes just for lurkers, and a lot of his mineral bank is gone now.
I'm still enjoying Reynor's position. Like, being the one that's being aggressive and being out on the map is good. What's happening over on the right-hand side here? A few lurkers are running up, but unit composition-wise, 27 lurkers for Dark. 9 Vipers, 10 Vipers for Reynor. Like, Dark's army is definitely better here, but for Reynor, like, the map position, having this amount of bases is definitely a better position to be in, but oh man, Dark's patience. I'd be pulling my hair out if it had any, if I was in Reynor's shoes.
I don't blame you on that one. Now, this is going to be an interesting attack here for Dark, because as we end up seeing, Reynor gets in behind Dark, and it looks like Dark is going to be able to secure his own lurkers in an aggressive position. I was a little worried if those Hydras went up that ramp before the lurkers actually caught up. It could have been a dangerous situation where all the Hydras would be trapped away from the rest of the lurkers, and they wouldn't have been able to get back, but he gets in, snipes off the hatchery, and is going to be able to get out of there safely. This
low drone count for Dark actually allows him to have so many units out everywhere, which I think is catching Reynor a little off guard. Because, yeah, 26 lurkers now, and he's still got a very good number of everything else. Granted, he's mining less, but does he need to mine a lot more if he goes for this approach? As long as he keeps trading as efficiently as he is. Two very different takes on ZVZ.
Almost actually more than double the resources lost for Reynor compared to Dark. Is that economic advantage going to be enough? A lot of yoinks coming out, I would say, heavily in favor of Dark getting some very nice pickoffs.
I can't believe that he's doing this to Reynor. Reynor's one of the best in the world at this, but Dark is honestly trading so unbelievably. 24k to 51k. Like, the amount of skill that this requires is insane.
There's so much second-to-second micro that is required to make full use of these armies. You can see how many more units Reynor has been losing. More Vipers, more Lurkers, more Hydras, more everything at this point, except for basically Lings and maybe drones. Now, Reynor is still mining from that center right-hand base. It does seem like that has been one of the central locations that Reynor has been able to keep up, thanks to the spines and the spores that he's been able to use to just buy time. But Dark is doing a nice job continuing to deny this left-hand side base. It does seem like Dark is pulling back right now as he is getting ready to move maybe again through the center. And by move, I mean move through the center to defend rather than to attack.
What I love for Dark is, as long as Reynor doesn't mine this left base and Dark gets it eventually, then it's the same amount of stuff mined, which, as long as Dark doesn't allow Reynor to take too much from it, with how he's been trading, yeah, it's going to be bad news bears for Reynor.
Starting to see that more and more of these spores are starting to burrow a bit further forward, just encroaching on the territory that Reynor was trying to set up for himself. A nice fungal growth also coming off on Reynor's army. Those Hydras, not exactly beefy tanks. They do go down to a couple of those fungal growths if given the opportunity to.
Like, Dark's just doing everything. Like, I know he had the investors earlier for the mutas and stuff, but they've been doing damn good at just slowing down the whenever Reynor comes at him as well. So just utilizing every unit whenever you can, because I dare say that's a unit that he was like, yeah, I don't really need that anymore, but he's been making good use of it, which just the trademark of a very good player.
I'm actually really curious, Ben. Would you want to see Reynor trying to make a few more of these forward spore crawlers and things like that on his own side? Just because right now, Reynor has mostly just been relying on, say, the Hydras and those frontal units. I guess the downside of it is actually creating a building. You're effectively sim-sitting yourself out of concaves and everything else if you're using that, and trying to be very mobile doesn't really work with spore crawlers. So is that something you should be using some of that mineral bank on?
I think it might be a really good idea. Oh, wait a minute here. Few good abducts on both sides. Vipers, Lurkers getting picked off, but yeah, these Spore Crawlers, absolutely worth their weight in gold. They're doing such a good job of just making it so difficult for Reynor. Looks like Reynor's getting ready to push again, but he has to be so damn careful here, Ravi, because it's not going to be easy.
This is a funny angle because it does mean that Dark has a potential of an insanely good concave, but since Dark's army is mostly on this left-hand side, I wonder if there is a small little angle that Reynor can squeeze in from, start killing off some of those Spore Crawlers on the right-hand side with just a handful of these Lurkers, and effectively maintain a very aggressive position, but not actually committing to an attack. Now, during all this, we are going to see the Hydras come in over here, wipe out this base. Reynor's going to try and go for a Parasitic Bomb, and Reynor a little bit later to the split. Some of those Vipers getting lower on hit points, but a lot of these spores are getting wiped out.
Oh my goodness, Dark's just playing the most annoying playstyle of all time. Every time Reynor comes at him, he's throwing spells on him, just moving back again if it feels unfavorable, and just pulling him into these spore fields. And wow, this is going on. Dark's just butchering the economy of Reynor that's left over. Look, he has to dive into these Spore Crawlers every time. The Blinding Clouds go down as well. Dark, you madman.
This has been such an effective defense here from Dark. And even though Reynor had a 7k gas or a mineral bank, he is having to replenish a lot of those minerals because he's effectively still taking much worse trades. Now, a couple more of these spores are going down, and this is the nice thing for Reynor is that he has taken away some of the spores, but Dark's mineral bank is still going. He still has a 3k mineral bank. He can replenish those spores. We're starting to see a very awkward fight as Reynor having to move up his own ramp to attack into the Hydras of Dark, and Dark taking some fantastic trades here.
Oh, we have to look at that resources lost tab and yet again, and oh my goodness. He is keeping over a 2-to-1 favorable ratio here. He's been defending the whole game on the back foot entirely, and now feels it's his time to march across the map. Reynor, are you going to be able to do what Dark's been doing the whole game? It's going to be ridiculously hard to do.
He's got a few spores of his own. These Hydra's going to be running in through a choke point. Blinding Cloud's coming down on top of Dark's army. But does Reynor have enough? He has a lot of Lurkers still being morphed in. He does let them finish. He picks off a lot of these Lurkers for Dark. And for once, I actually think that might have been a big engagement that went economically in favor of Reynor.
It's much easier to be the defender in a lot of these situations. You felt that, like, Dark went for it, but he wasn't quite recovered from the fight that happened before. A lot of his Vipers weren't quite as healthy on energy. And Reynor, maybe that's a little bit of confidence he needed, but I'm just looking at his gas bank. It's absolutely gone.
That is going to be a major problem. And Dark is looking to try and take one of the forward center bases. He does end up throwing that hatchery down. Reynor's still been mining off of that right-hand center base. And I really wonder, is this going to be a moment where Reynor takes a step back and says, maybe I need to be defensive? No. The answer is a resounding no very quickly. Reynor starts moving down the ramp with a lot of his Hydras, trying to be aggressive onto this base. His Lurkers, his Vipers, all getting going to those Spore Crawlers, and it does seem like Dark is taking a 60 supply lead.
And that's not replenishable. It isn't replenishable at all. Look at his gas, it's so low. He can't actually make any more of those valuable units. 28k gas loss compared to 12k. Dark's putting on a masterclass of how to play late game ZVZ.
This is brutal. This is really, really tough. Right now, Dark is able to defend that left-hand base as well, so he's going to have yet another base that's going to equalize the amount of resources that can be mined on either side of the map for both players. Reynor still just sitting at next to 0 gas, and he's making lings, he's making roaches right now. He's adding on queens because he can't afford the gas to do anything else. For once, Dark is actually favored in the income advantage.
Dark set out what he wanted to do right from minute 8. And he's finally getting to that stage. That is, when they talk about chess players thinking 20 moves ahead, Dark was thinking 100 moves ahead. Absolutely crazy that he's managed to land himself here, because it looked a little bit bleak for a moment in time, but my goodness, stellar, stellar play. And I know a lot of people are going to be like, wow, it was pretty slow and what have you, right? But no, it was just absolutely methodical.
Yeah. I'm actually a little bit afraid for Maru, because if Maru has to face off versus Dark at some point in the event, and this is the way that Dark is willing to play in those long, drawn-out games, he looks damn scary in it. He would give even Maru, I think, a run for his money on being patient with a long-term game plan.
Certainly would, certainly would. Reynor still completely out of gas, whereas Dark has gas for days as well. Gets to get that fresh base over on the left side. I dare say Reynor's gas on the right side is pretty damn close to mining out at this point, actually. Reynor with a little bit of a desperate Ling run by. Not even sure if they have cracked Lings yet, but definitely doesn't have the +2 or +3 melee upgrades, and everywhere we look, it's just a bleak situation for Reynor.
It really is tough, but you know what? Given the fact that he did have quite a bit of a mineral bank that he wasn't really spending on spores or spines, I don't actually hate the decision. If he's not going to spend it on the static defense, using it on some of these links to try and draw the army out of position and try and go for a big attack seems like a reasonable move. We're seeing a lot of blinding clouds coming down on both sides. I think the roaches are mostly out of the blinding clouds and actually able to attack a little bit more, but the splash damage from Dark is going to be a little bit too brutal. We're starting to see at the end of the day, Dark has a little bit too much. GG gets called, and Dark reigns supreme in the late game.
That might be one of the first times that I can actually say that Reynor was outplayed in ZVZ. That's not something you can say very often. Dark, I actually don't know how he does it. Like, his patience there. Like, normally he's a raging bull, but I think that's what makes Dark so difficult. He can just turn it off or on. Like, it's a switch, right? Like, go, 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 off, off, off. A lot of players can't do that. Very unique skill to have.
I want to remind everyone, because that was almost a 35-minute game, that started off also with Dark going for an aggressive Ling Roach attack with no lair. It was a committed attack. It really needed to get something done damage-wise. Raynor went ultra defensive, built a lot of spines just to get up his mutas and survive, and Raynor came out of the situation in a pretty decent position. He was in a pretty decent lead there. And Dark's reaction to go for that hyper late game situation, saying, I'm behind, let me turtle up until I can even out this game with patience and better trades. That is a scary thing to have under your belt, because once you solidify yourself as being able to do that in a game, that makes it really scary, knowing every single time later on in the series, Raynor gets a little bit ahead, and you have to think in the back of your mind, could Dark just turtle up again and try and pull off the same kind of miracle?
Oh, absolutely. Like, that definitely gives him a lot of confidence. Reynor still smiling after that loss. The crowd is cheering him on despite the defeat. But yeah, that's definitely going to be a bit of a kick in the teeth for Reynor, because he's played a lot of really good players in this tournament, making miraculous, almost comebacks, but that was absolutely solid play out of Dark. You just can't deny it. Not many people can do that, and in fact, I think he might be one of the only guys that can do that, honestly. I've seen Cyril do magical things before, but absolutely crazy.
Love of the crowd out there, and I know that Raynor is too, as he takes a quick step away after a very long game for both of those players. But love that these guys have been so supportive of both players, cheering them on, doing a great job. I know Zombieguard was telling me, and I was even tweeting about some young lads out there that were cheering on so loudly that their dad was like, hold on, the proxy rack's behind the mineral line. Please don't cheer too loudly, you're gonna give it away. And I'm like, oh, that is too adorable.
Yeah, there's a lot of great fans here, actually. Everyone that I've met so far, just walking by in the corridors, it's been like, hey man, how's it going? I'm like, hey, it's good to be back. But yeah, already this tournament has had a lot of great games. That ZVZ goes down as one of the most, I don't know the word for it, even though I'm an Englishman. It was just so precise and just so thought out by Dark.
Methodical almost, just, yeah.
It really shows like true masterclass of the matchup. Anyhow, guys, we're going to go to a short break while these players rest up and give us even more games. Do stay tuned.
we are getting ready to move back into game number 3. Hope you all have had a nice little opportunity to get up, stretch, rejuvenate yourself after that game number 2, because this is a best of 5, and we still have a minimum of 2 games, if not more, in a tied-up series.
Absolutely. I just took a little bit of a break myself just to go grab some water, ran back immediately, and I'm excited for this one. I don't know what's going through both these players' head, because Dark, maybe he's thinking now, like, as long as it gets to the late game, I'm going to be absolutely fine, and we might see totally different strategies out of both these players now. Anyhow, Berlingrad will be the 3rd map of the series, spawning here in the bottom right as our red Zerg. It is Reynor.
And up here in the top left-hand side of the map, we have our blue Zerg player representing Team Dragon Phoenix Gaming. He is Dark.
I had a little look at Dark's player cam during the break, and he was looking so calm and zen. He was like, had his eyes closed, just sat back, almost, it looked like he was envisioning that he was in a different place entirely, but wherever he went, I think he went there during that game too, because that was absolutely phenomenal play. And thinking about it from Reynor's perspective as well, it's like, well, I don't want to get to late game ever, so we might see both these players go with completely conflicting play styles from this point on.
I do love that even what we were talking about at the very beginning of the match, before either of these players started playing, you could see the difference in their demeanor. Reynor amped up, even amping up the crowd a little bit, getting very ready for an exciting match, and Dark looking so calm, so collected, and I feel like that's almost reflective of each one of these players' wins on that scoreboard. Reynor, a very action-packed, fast-paced game on Pride of Altaris, and then you had Dark in that last game going for the ultimate calm and collected style of play.
Yeah, I mean, it was absolutely polar opposites, right? Like, you're absolutely right. Very cool to see. Berlingrad, it is a map that is a little bit short in rush distance, which does allow for some cheeky builds to go on. Neither player is doing anything too ridiculous at this point in time. No 12 pools to be seen so far in this series. Dark is somebody that's absolutely known for whipping that out now and then, but both players showing a lot of respect to one another, both going for the hatch gas pool.
Yeah, I almost feel like it's a stereotype or a bit trite to say right after the really long game. I feel like a lot of pro players love going for the cheeses, so I like that both these players are kind of sticking around for a little bit. If you're going to go for a big attack or something, I think there are some really solid mid-game pressures and stuff, or attacks that you can go for if you decide to later on. But for now, you're right. They are just going to be adding on a couple more of those drones, sending a few lings across the map. We already see that Reynor is moving to the location of a 3rd, and same thing can be said for Dark.
Yeah, absolutely mirrored builds here, and rightly so. It is the best build in ZVZ right now. Both going to be scouting with a couple of lings as well, just to check one another out. Balin Nest should be going down for both these players as well, as they do. They did keep 2 drones on the gas, which is the perfect number for getting it out while staying as economical as possible. And, ooh, Dark's the one keeping quite a few extra drones and actually putting more drones on the gas as well here. That probably means a little bit of a signal there that he's going to be very aggressive very soon.
We might be seeing some of that gas going into a few more Banelings than maybe Reynor is thinking about. Reynor adding on quite a few links himself, so he's going to have the army supply available to try and also deal with any kind of aggression that might be thrown his way. His own Zergling speed is about to kick in just a moment's time. A Roach Warren also being added on over here for Dark, and kind of interesting enough, we do end up seeing Reynor being the first one to move out and move straight across the map.
What a funny situation, man. Like, these guys just battled it out in like a 35-minute game, and now it's like Dark, the victor in that game, is like, you know what? I'm going to go with a Roach Warren very, very quickly, but Reynor's getting a very nice little trade here with the Lings early on. One Baneling is getting sniped here. Reynor with a superior Zergling out, but that's a lot of drones falling. 9. I think that's about the best you could hope for.
I don't think you could ask for any more than that. Right now, Reynor, in order to equalize, almost has to kill this hatchery. That was so many drones to go down. Now, it is actually still relatively even on that work account, so I guess it is important to keep in mind the number of units that Dark did make. Reynor's going to have to back off, only getting that hatchery down to the orange of hit points. So as things all shake out in the end, you have to remember, yes, the supplies are relatively even, but Dark also has the roaches coming on out, and that is going to be a big game changer in these little trades.
It certainly is, certainly is. I don't think Reynor has any idea about it just yet, but he's a very, very smart player, still making a lot of lings. Now he sees a roach for sure. Now his third is under pressure. The queen left there as well. Reynor with a little shake of the head. Don't fall apart, Reynor. It's not over just yet, but he's feeling the pressure, putting up a spine crawler at his natural as well. He's going to be dancing with his Banes and trying to hold on, but Dark's caught him completely off guard with this one.
This is a really cool move here from Raynor. He says, okay, you killed off my third. I'm just not actually going to worry about leaving my units at home. I'm going to try and go for the counterattack. But look at this. Dark already pulled back his units. He was maybe hoping that Dark would continue poking a little bit on further forward. But at the end of the day, Dark is ready, pulls his units back to help defend against a Ling counterattack, and then starts moving back over toward his opponent's side of the map.
This is a scary Dark he's going up against, man. The fact that he did that in the late game, then he can just flick the switch just like that. And it's like, oh, we're going to play a different game, and yet again. And it's just, he's so hard to keep up with. He's so hard to predict. He can just do it all. And here, Reynor is going to be getting a little bit of scout off going here, which won't give him very good news, I'm afraid, Ravi, because it is like, oh, you're actually like pretty damn well saturated as well, huh? And I guess we can say for Reynor, getting that carapace, if he can get it up and running, that is good for him. Maybe we can get a few little cheeky drone kills here. Baneling does do a good job of clearing up quite a few of those lings, though.
Yeah, this is going to become a problem as we start to get to this work account, especially if your third base gets sniped off yet again. Now, this is a nice little run by over here, sniping off quite a few drones over here in the natural of Dark, and maybe going to be able to get a queen. Dark so far on the other side of the map, but what does Raynor have back at home to defend? This is all well and good. He can do as much damage as possible, but he needs to stay alive at home, and right now it's just a few lings, some queens. We do have some more lings coming on out, but is it going to be enough to deflect these roaches?
Oh, Dark's using Raynor's own base against him here. Look at that choke point. All those lings running in single file here just to die. Nice little evo block there. Just make it a little bit trickier to run around, but those are a lot of red drones. The queens are falling now. The Baneling's running in as well. All are sniped by Reynor.
Yeah, Raynor doing a fantastic job with the micro. Doesn't end up losing almost any drones. He takes a lot of hits on them, but keeps alive. And all of that drone damage he did on the other side of the map does put him ahead in workers. So the longer that this game goes on, even without a third base, 35 workers, I mean, not exactly going to be fully saturated for 3 bases. Raynor has a fighting chance over here, but he needs to continue to defend.
He's got +1 armor right now. That's actually a massive deal when it comes to these lings just dealing far less damage than they should. Baneling nest, or rather Baneling was sniped. The roaches in on the drones now. The drones getting a nice little wraparound here, helping with the damage. The supply actually favoring Raynor at this point. Is he going to hold? He's actually got more roaches out here. He's the defender with a defender's advantage as well. If he holds here, Ravi, he's still absolutely in this game, but can he hold? That is the question. These roaches of Dark starting to deal a lot of damage. The drones have to get pulled again, but Raynor, oh my goodness, this is close.
It is so unbelievably close. Remember, every time the drones pull off the line, they're also not mining, but Raynor is still able to scrounge up enough resources to push this army of Dark back. Dark is starting to throw up a spine crawler and additional drones behind all this. He still has a few more units popping on out. Now, the big difference is you have to remember that Dark does have a completed third base still alive. So while Raynor has a superior drone count, he is not necessarily going to be super far ahead economically until his third base is actually able to start mining.
I'm starting to like Raynor's position, man. That +1 armor, the fact that he's got roach speed on the way, we can't forget that he got the lair.
Yeah.
If he finishes up that 1 missile as well, just a far superior army in every regard. The fact that he held all that was crazy, actually. Super good micro on Raynor's part.
I think we have a little run by over here with the Lings over to the third base, just trying to keep Dark as defensive as possible, making sure he's on point and seeing if Raynor can snag any additional drone leads that he can find. He's already adding on some more drones of his own as he does continue to add on a few more roaches here and there. He's not purely just on that drone powering right now, as I think he does have exactly in mind what you were talking about, Ben, utilizing all of these additional upgrades he has over Dark.
Yeah, and he even goes for a spy right now. Raynor feeling either very confident with this position or feeling like he needs to do something a bit crazy. I'm not sure if he knows exactly where he is in this game. He's obviously a very, very talented player, but this has been so weird and wacky. How many drones have been killed by both players so far? It's almost dead even. The resources lost tab as well. Very, very close between them. Just, I mean, not even 100 resources in it. That is crazy.
So close of a game. But at the end of the day, we are going to end up seeing whether or not Dark is going to be ready for this kind of tech play from Reynor, if Reynor is able to actually safely get to it. Right now, Dark is not showing any signs that he's going to go for another really large attack. He's continuing to add on drones. His lair finally just finished up, so he can start up his own roach speed. But we have +1 missile attack finishing up over here for Reynor. We already have that Spire about to finish up. And he's got a decent-sized army, so this is one of those awkward situations where as a Zerg player on the defensive against a potential Mutas play, you really don't have the army size to actually go for a hyper-aggressive attack. You can't go for some big counterattack, threaten and force out a bunch of spine crawlers. Your opponent has as large of a ground army as you do, and they have some Mutas.
That Spire got scouted out, and he did keep it. He didn't cancel it or anything. He is still going for very heavy upgrades on his roaches. Maybe going to go with a fairly small Mutaflock in this matchup, but that scout was actually huge, because as soon as that was spotted, Dark was like, all right, Hydralisk Den immediately. Starts getting Hydralisk out, starts going for the Lurkers, and he's going to slow down the pace of the game like crazy and yet again, which, whoa, this is lining up to be another long one, possibly.
Well, I'm glad you went and got some water right before this, Ben, because I am in full agreement with you. Unless Reynor has some plans that are going to be able to change the way that this goes, which I think is going to be very, very difficult to do, it is likely going to be Dark getting well set up to sit back, defend, 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 and defend until he feels confident that he is going to be able to move out safely.
Reynor with the lead right now in terms of upgrades and what have you. The drone count being very much equaled out, which is nuts when you think about it. Tech-wise, though, Dark did a little bit of a jump there, so now he has Lurkers actually coming out onto the field. I do like the fact that Reynor wasn't too crazy with the Muta count, just get enough to kill Overlords here and there, be on the map, get a little bit of map control, and just make it a little bit difficult for his opponent, but can't be losing them like this. But if he can get that Lurker before it finishes, which he can't, but it's a good scout regardless.
Yep, good confirmation of everything. And continue to just keep Dark a little bit occupied. Finding a Hydra over there in exchange for a Muta, I think, is actually not too terrible of a trade, considering he is moving out on the map. And if he draws any additional units over toward those Mutas, it is going to make it a little bit easier for him to find some good damage over here. But it is going to be a big Roach versus Roach battle. But the important aspect for Reynor is that he has these Ravagers. He needs to be able to Corrosive Bile the Lurkers.
He certainly does. He's also going to be hitting 2-1 in 10 seconds. So that's something to consider here. He's going to be at a 2 upgrade advantage, but Lurkers are damn good. They will absolutely even out the score. In fact, bring it into Dark's favor. Look at Dark, by the way. Despite being under this pressure, he's like, you know what? Going to get Burrow and Tunneling Claws. Crazy.
Lurkers burrowed in a very nice position there. Dark even repositioning to dodge the Corrosive Bile. It's going to be very difficult for Reynor to try and move up that ramp through the little choke point caused by the minerals. We're going to see that Reynor is going to continue to posture left and right. But at this point, I think enough Lurkers have been morphed in that it's going to be very difficult for Reynor to find an opportunity unless he can find some Corrosive Biles on some of these Lurkers, which he hasn't been able to do just yet.
You can really sense it. Reynor doesn't want this to go to the ultra late game again. He absolutely doesn't. And he, nice little dodge last second there. And tries to get that Ravager with a few of those, or rather the Lurker with a few of those Ravagers, but can't quite get it. And oh my goodness. Both these guys are playing so good.
They both really are. It's so brutal to watch as Reynor, you can see there's almost like a little bit of desperation in some of this micro to try and pick off those extra few units, because he really does want to be able to do something over here. He does have something set up over on the left-hand side while all of this is going on. He's going to be able to get a kill on one of the 4th hatchery locations that is being attempted. So nice little win there for Reynor.
Certainly is, certainly is. And these Ravagers, they can poke and they can prod, and it doesn't really cost him too much, but is Reynor aware of what's coming around? Because when you're at home and you see those roaches have their little spiky boys, you're like, oh yeah, I think Reynor's super aware, by the way. I think he saw as soon as those roaches came alive with those spikes, he's like, all right, that is the next threat. But that does buy Dark the time that he so desperately wants to move out, be able to expand and stuff, and look at that. Reynor more than prepared for this. Very nicely done.
And this is a good feeling as Reynor, because it also means you're just getting to pick off a bunch of free supply over here. So this is already a nice little trade as you have overwhelming number of roaches here. The 2 remaining mutas gonna harass that other 4th base location, as the rest of the roaches are also gonna be able to move in not only toward the roaches, but actually to the 4th hatchery, which forces a cancel. Dark is going to try and go for a bit of a counter swing. Raynor is not too far behind, but Dark going to do a very good job of splitting up his roaches, making this as annoying as possible to try and clean up.
This is really nice by Dark, actually. This gets him so much time. But Reynor, on the other side of things, he's actually going up to a 5th and 6th base, which is super good by him. Maybe the 6th base is cancelled here, is actually killed. Lots of drones are falling for Reynor, so he has to be careful despite having a bit of a bigger bank. And these tunneling claw roaches are just, they're being such a nuisance here. But Dark needs to get a 4th base underway.
Yeah, he's trying to buy as much time as possible and space for himself, but this is just the world-class player of Reynor. He is not sending all of his units at home. He is not going to be the kind of player who gets too distracted by a couple of roaches in his main base or his natural. He's able to use that multitasking ability, that youth, to continue to divert his attention to both the main and also continue to do pressure at any 4th base location. Yet again, he finds a 4th, he kills the 4th again. Another kill on the hatchery.
These two are so beautifully matched, man. Like, they really are. The fact that they're both piling on the pressure despite being under so much pressure is crazy. Every unit counting, by the way, keeping those units alive with these transfusions and whatnot. Reynor's bank is starting to look pretty healthy. Resources lost still pretty damn close.
Move out.
That is a lot of lurkers, though. Luckily, Reynor does have the answer, which is a lot of Vipers, but he has to be so good with his spell casting decision making here.
Yep, those blinding clouds, those abducts are going to be so important. A blinding cloud coming down on top of that ramp for a moment, but Reynor has to back off. He does have a large army trying to go for a counterattack, but that one lurker really causing a lot of trouble. Now the natural expansion getting concaved in on over here. Dark getting so much damage on, and Reynor, where is he going to try and make his last stand?
Oh, he's trying over here. The abducts, though, it's not into too much at all. The lurkers running over to that base, but that might be the wrong side of town here. They are caught by a large... Oh, they're not in vision of the Spore Crawler. That's such a bad mistake, or rather not a bad mistake, but such an error. And here, a big flank by Reynor. He's going to be able to take out everything. Nice blinding clouds by him. This is a real rumble in Reynor's base, but 41 drones have fallen here, Ravi.
This is going to be a huge, huge problem for both of these players in very different regards. Reynor is fully all in at this point. That economic advantage, he can kiss goodbye. But the army supply advantage is what he's going to have going for him. Can his army supply that he still has remaining do enough counter damage to try and pull Dark back into the Dark Ages in terms of his own economy?
Yeah, even though Dark's been stuck on 3 bases this entire game, the amount that he's got done with it, but Reynor, he's not done. He's going to be making some more drones, and yet again, which I'm not surprised by. He still has hatchers alive. He has quite a few bases left despite losing 2. But pushing into lurkers behind these spore fields, although he does have a lot of very healthy Vipers here, but Dark's going to make it as difficult for him as possible.
One lurker getting abducted. Despite all of the spore callers, he is going to be able to find a couple of opportunities. Muta's right next to a potential 5th base location. I imagine they should be able to start working away on that. I'm not sure that Dark actually has enough army supply to divert to help deal with that. So cancel does go off. Another 4th base location on that left-hand side does seem like it is still going to be continuing to go up. This is just Dark doing such a phenomenal job buying time, because every second that goes by, he is still up 20 workers, even after all the droning that Reynor has done.
He certainly is. These spore crawlers, if Reynor can take them all out, he can pounce on this army, take out all the lurkers behind the wall, but he's doing such a good job. Look, just darting in, picking off 2 lurkers there. Granted, he lost a few units, but that is perfect play by Reynor. That's what he has to keep doing. Maybe a little blinding cloud on that spore crawler, and then he can move forward.
He reached a hatchery almost at this point. The corrosive biles on the hatchery might even be an option, just given as much as you can reburrow and unburrow those lurkers or the spore crawlers. You can't really do that with the hatchery.
No, he certainly can't. Reynor's ahead in supply right now, but now Dark has his own little pulley boys, and that was quite a few healthy Ravagers, and wow, Reynor's very prepared for these roaches that have tunneled their way across the map, and all of a sudden, Reynor's drone count not looking as unhealthy as it did a few minutes ago, and he's the one with the space and with the bases, but Dark did get this 4th base online here, down at the 4th spot.
No spore callers over here, so I do think there might be a little bit more of an opportunity to push on forward, especially if all the lurkers are a little bit further behind. The Vipers are going to start joining the fray. Lurker number 1 gets picked up, but it doesn't get picked off. We're starting to see a Parasitic Bomb and an Overseer. It's not going to do too much, but it is enough of a force that Reynor feels like he has to hit at a different angle, or at least back off for now. I'm still a little bit worried for Reynor, but 10 more workers is going to allow him to get back to a place where he has a solid economy. Now, Roachworn and Hydra Den bleeding out, I'm not sure if Reynor has actually realized or noticed that he's bleeding out on both of those, and that might turn out to be a problem if he doesn't notice.
Certainly might, and more abducts. You know it's getting crazy when you're having to abduct roaches and stuff, but all of a sudden, look at Reynor's drone count, 57 to 50. Like, he's done such a good job of just denying the bases of Dark this game. Like, very, very, very conflicting styles. He's starting to get himself into a really good position here.
Yeah, I really think he has. This has turned into such a wishy-washy game in terms of who has been ahead. Now these two roaches going to come in over here, try and focus fire down as many drones as possible, which, like you said, funny enough, Reynor is ahead in workers, so he can afford to lose a few. And just with so many bases, he's still going to have that economic advantage. But is Reynor actually going to start getting into his own lurkers? Is he going to start getting into his own form of that high advanced tech?
He has to. He has to. I mean, if he gets stuck on trying to kill him with Roach, Ravager, Hydra, Viper, I mean, technically, if you do take some really damn good fights, it could work out for you, but you're really banking on your opponent moving out and maybe making some errors. But Dark's army composition is absolutely a good one. Now he's starting to work on his armor upgrades as well. What's the lurker count at right now? 20.
Oh my god.
That's not something you take lightly.
That is an armada of lurkers, not an army of them. My god, we are going to end up seeing a couple more of these roaches go on down. But this is also drawing the entire army of Reynor well away from Dark's side of the map. So remember, every one of these little run-bys, every time they're buying a little bit of extra space for Dark and potentially picking off a Hydra Den. Are you kidding me? That hero Roach taking down the Hydra Den.
It's just a funny game at this point. 13 Vipers on the field for Raynor. That is a lot of Vipers indeed, and that can make a lot of magic happen.
Small little detail there. I think Reynor noticed that the Hydra Den was getting target fire down. He threw down the Lurker Den right before it died. So now he can actually rebuild both the Hydra Den and have that Lurker Den still on the way, not delaying his own Lurkers, which I really like. Yeah,
but this game it's a different gear now altogether. Like, for a while, they're both killing each other. Reynor came back into it, now Dark's coming back into it. Absolutely crazy. Like, yeah.
I want to ask you something, Ben. That last game, we obviously saw a very, very long, drawn-out, solidified position from Dark. Do you feel like this is the kind of map you can do that sort of split map situation quite as easily? I feel like it is going to spread Dark out a lot more to try and do a split map 50-50 position compared to the last map.
I mean, if Dark feels he can do it on this map, which so far it looks like he's doing a good job of it, he's a far better Zerg than I'd ever be. So yeah, I'm going to trust him. I'm going to trust him. But Reynor is getting into those lurkers with the upgrades, and I do feel that his position here, even though it's a weird thing to say, it's better than it was on Hardwire. Like, now he's got all these Vipers already done. Granted, no lurkers, which definitely sucks for him, but he's done such a good job of just shutting down everything that Dark's been trying to throw at him. Because these tunneled roaches, yeah, they've been doing damage, but they could have been doing a hell of a lot more. And if we look at the banks that accumulate in here, Dark, even though he's in okay shape, like he's not going to die anytime soon, it's still only on 4 bases. Third is mined out, by the way. He's practically a 1-base Zerg.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I mean. I think that this is one of those maps where the 5th base is actually going to get really difficult to take. And taking a 6th base, you're going to start taking bases on the opposite side of each other, which really means you're spread out. Speaking of spread out, we do have Parasitic Bombs coming down on top of these Vipers and doing some good AoE. They're actually getting some abducts on some of these Vipers as well. Really, really nice damage with the Parasitic Bomb on Reynor's Vipers. Soften them all up to the orange. He's going to have to be so careful with those now.
Oh no, this is like the worst thing that could ever happen for Reynor. Lurkers getting between all the rally points here, and vision-wise, it's going to be difficult to take them all down. That is so many lurkers. He still doesn't have lurkers of his own. And even when they do pop out, which they will eventually, I do believe, they're not going to have adaptive talons yet, just yet. And look at that bank that he once had. It's starting to diminish massively. The Hive did fall in the main base as well. Dark with some very, very clutch plays there.
This positional play from Dark is really, really putting him back on the map. Blinding Cloud's coming down both sides. The parasitic bomb on these Vipers, soften them up to the red. A lot of them go pop. Only a handful remain here for Reynor. Dark is going to be able to claim victory here in game number 3. He leads this series up 2-1.
I actually can't believe Dark did that. I started really believing in Reynor's situation there. Like, he had so many Vipers and stuff, but I think he got caught out in the middle of the map there. We saw the camera kind of zoom away a little bit, but so many parasitic bombs landed, and when you've got that many lurkers, I don't think Reynor really knew what he was dealing with, because he kept fighting, kept trying to deal damage, seeing the lurkers. But once they all accumulated and just darted across the map, I know that pain as a Terran player, Ravi. Once those lurkers get on top of you, you're in a lot of trouble. But oh my goodness, we're starting to see the first signs of frustration here on Reynor's face, and I'm not surprised. He's up against one of the greatest displays of ZVZ that we've ever seen.
Truly and surely, this is such a tough style from Dark to actually pull off effectively, especially against someone who is so good at aggression as Reynor. Reynor is known as one of the best players when it comes to aggression, especially multi-prong harassment. You can see that Dark has just been staying so cool, so calm, so collected. Funny enough, and just missed it, but Dark was actually holding his own head, holding his nose, just, I think, absorbing in the fact that these 2 games have probably even taken a lot out of him. But if he wins one more, whether it be a fast one or a very, very long one, Dark is going to be the one advancing on to the semifinals. He just needs one more victory.
Will Dark continue to be the Achilles heel of Reynor when it comes to these major competitions? I remember watching Reynor take down Cyril in the semi-finals at BlizzCon, but then when he went up against Dark, it's almost like he ran out of gas when it went up against him. But sometimes you can just have these style clashes, and whatever Dark's doing against Reynor, whatever he's done to get under his skin a little bit, it's working. This Zen approach that he has, just kind of being the rock in the river, just letting the water flow past him. Look at him, just, yeah, he's feeling cool, calm, and comfortable in the games. Oh, what he's displaying is amazing.
I almost want to thank the person who gave Dark the blue color for this match and Reynor the red color, because I really do feel like it's the epitome of what has been happening. Fiery red, aggressive play out of Reynor, booming economies are all the adjectives that come to mind for Reynor's gameplay. And Dark has been cool, calm, collected, ready, and waiting for so many of these games. It really does feel like it's been a clash of styles and almost personalities at this point.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm curious as to what the 4th map will be for both of these guys. Berlingrad, fairly standard map when it comes to ZVZ. Dark did handle it very well. Maybe Reynor needs to slow down a little bit, maybe focus on the tech as opposed to just killing his opponent a little bit better, but it was a very difficult map for him to get back into. We can't forget that he did lose his 3rd and almost died to one of these very early pushes.
I think that is the most interesting thing about both of the hyper defensive games that Dark has played. In both of those games, Dark was initially the aggressor. Dark has been the one throwing out the attacks and getting in Reynor's face first. And I'm interested to see how things go.
We're getting on into it. 4th map, life on the line. If you love him, if you support him, big, big cheers out there for Clash's Reynor.
Down here in the bottom left-hand side of the map, the blue Zerg player from Dragon Phoenix Gaming looking to kill yet another non-Korean player. He is Dark.
I think no matter who you support in this game, be it Reynor or Dark, you just have to be happy with the fact that they're giving us such good StarCraft games.
This has been an absolutely killer day of StarCraft, killer couple of days of StarCraft, to be honest. We've had so many amazing matches and so many, I would say, patient but exciting matches the last, I would say, couple of series.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. I mean, the rogue match was a bit one-sided, but
yeah,
he just displayed that he's a far superior player, right? At least for the time being. But Reynor going up against Dark. Yeah, this is some of the best European ZVZ against some of the best Korean ZVZ, and I haven't seen them duke it out in this kind of way before in a long time. But for all the other Zergs out there still in the tournament, they're watching this and they're like, holy crap. I don't want to play against either one of these guys, for sure.
You know, it's very funny you also specifically mentioned Korean versus Zerg ZVZ, because I actually think, funny enough, both these players are almost playing to the opposite end of things. I think a lot of the stereotypes about Korean Zergs is being hyper-aggressive, in your face, lots of Ling, Baneling pressure, and just never really relenting on a lot of that stuff, and still having the ability to go later into the game, but really focusing on that early stage. I think a lot of the stereotypes about European Zerg players is the opposite. It's that they can play that early game, they can be aggressive, but a lot of it is focused on those big mid-game armies, late-game situations, lots of roach wars and everything. And I really do feel like it's been Reynor, who's been almost playing a lot more like the stereotypical Korean Zerg, and Dark, who's been playing a little bit more closer to the stereotype of a European.
Potentially, when you say, like, once it gets to the mid-game, sure, but a lot of these crazy, like, roach builds, because we've got to remember that it's Dark playing these early game all-in for the roaches and stuff. Like, that's the thing. Like, Dark has felt very hard to read because he can flick this switch during the match, and maybe Reynor hasn't been truly allowed to play his game, like his game plan right from the start, and a lot of it can come down to counter prep and just anti-gaming. And I remember Cyril saying this about Rogue's play. One thing that he really liked about him was anti-prep. Like, you go for a style, a build to throw off all of your opponent's practice and thinking, and it allows you to play the game that you've practiced for, as opposed to your opponent doing what they practice for.
Yeah, I really like that train of thought, and I think it has been a very, very strong theme in this series so far of Dark being able to set the pace of every single one of these games, whether it be with his early game aggression or his follow-up into the defensive play. It really does feel like Reynor is playing still an extremely competitive series, but he is playing a competitive series that Dark has dictated.
Oh, definitely, definitely. Both going for an Evo Chamber. Different timings, obviously. Reynor with it far earlier this game here on Glittering Ashes. This is quite a large map, like definitely one of the larger in the pools. And the little scout here from Dark, we'll get to see exactly what's going on and give him a little poke, give him a little hit or run. That felt to me like that was a little bit of cheekiness there just to show how fast he could click in front of his opponent's eyes. But Reynor's the one with the very, in fact, they're both, look at that, simultaneously super early Roach Warrens going for different upgrades though. This is a funny situation because the guy that usually goes Carapace, he's the one that wants to be aggressive and in your opponent's face. And in that regard, you can survive Baneling hits, your Lynx can survive the two-shot of the Roaches and such. It's just very nice for just soliding up your entire army before it is entirely just Roaches, which that's what Dark is kind of aiming for here with his +1 attack missile upgrade.
Yep, 2 more gases being added on for Reynor, but no lair in sight right now. In the meanwhile, Dark adding on those 3 extra gases, but has his lair completed. Reynor spotted out the lair timing, whereas Dark has not sent any scouts that have gotten to the main base, nor does he have any overlords even remotely close.
I wonder if this is one of those situations where Dark saw how early that Evo was, and given how Reynor played the last game, and he's like, he's probably going to do the same thing again, like, or at least something close to it. But we do see that Reynor's going to be the one being very aggressive here, and nice positioning of these Zerglings will stop these Banelings from dealing too much damage in the mirror line, and even kind of running away from them, splitting up those Zerglings as well, one by one. Dark will see that units are starting to pour out of this base here, starts up his Spine Crawlers, is making nothing but battle units from this point on. Reynor's bringing the fire in Game 4.
This is going to be a really funny situation, though, because even though, despite all this, Reynor is going to start up his lair behind it, and he also has more drones, and he has more army supply. So if he's able to get some good damage done over here, I think that's going to set Reynor up to be in a very, very nice position. Roaches come on forward to try and engage directly against these queens. Banelings fighting versus Banelings. It does seem like Dark has a few more left over, trying to zone out any more of these lings that might try to pop on forward. But Dark is able to deflect the first round of the attack.
And look at that, +1 missiles about to come online now. That was +1 carapace for Reynor, but now we've got the big upgrades coming in for Dark, and it will be Roach speed as well. Dark did such a good job of keeping his Banelings behind, and oh my goodness, he's going for a Nidus.
I think this is going to be a killer move right now because Dark's advantages are, in a sense, still kind of temporary advantages. Not only because Reynor's also researching his own +1 missile attack, but also just because Reynor has almost 20 more workers than Dark. The longer this game goes on, the more it's going to favor Reynor with just being able to get up more units. But is Reynor going to be able to detect that? What exactly is going on? He must be wondering, where are your Roaches? Your Roaches are pretty far out right now. He has to be sounding off the alarm bells. He's building spines.
He's been building quite a few drones here, though, Ravi. He's up to 64, but is doing a Nidus into an opponent that's done nothing but build ground units the right move. Wait, he's got no units moving over to that spot. He's got nothing moving over to it, but Dark is threatening here with quite a lot of roaches at his front door as well. Remember, they've got +1 missiles here. These are a lot healthier roaches. The Nidus in the main, now it's going to be a Nidus at this front door. Reynor's holding strong, though. He does have a lot more supply. I think he felt that Reynor was going to be cheeky and go for a Spire. It's the only possible answer. He could have been thinking about this.
Perfectly set up over there. It looks like Reynor was able to cancel the Night Storm in the main base with 2 roaches and a queen. The absolute minimum number of units, which is exactly what you want. So you can have all these units over here at the front lines. A great concave over here on the high ground from Reynor. And you can see the supply start to climb massively in favor of our young Italian Zerg.
Certainly is, and with that amount of drones as well, income advantage massively in favor of Reynor. Now Dark is the one that's going for a Spire. I can't believe he went for the Nidus, man. Like, he definitely misread what Reynor was doing, because Reynor, he teched up slowly. I think he really absolutely thought he was going for a Spire play a lot sooner than we ever thought possible, but that comes... We see everything, obviously. Dark absolutely doesn't. Reynor did such a good job of just keeping Dark under pressure there.
Yeah, I mean, just a beautiful defense there, and I'm just amazed that Reynor was able to get up a superior worker count and a superior army count with all the upgrades actually just about to catch up in time for that attack, or right after the attack actually ended up finishing up. Now we have, like you said, that Spire on the way, but Reynor is still sitting at a nice little worker advantage, and he has total map control at this point. He took such a dominating advantage in the army supply that he can take his 4th base. He can think about continuing his economic edge, and he is nearly maxed out at this point. So he's going to do something with his army, I guarantee you that.
I think he's lining it up with that plus, or that roach speed upgrade, but he's getting all the upgrades right now. 2-2 on the way. Even getting Overlord speed here, just to confirm what he's up against. It's like, you just tried to Nidus me, dude. Like, what are you doing next? And misses the scout just about on that Spire, but with the fact that he's moving out across the map already, it doesn't matter whatever he sees. He's just going to go, go, go.
Yeah, the number of mutas that can be made right now by Dark is going to be extremely small. It'll add in a lot of extra DPS. It'll definitely help out a little bit with the defense, but it is not going to save the day unless he can also take some good trades with his actual army itself. Overlord starting to go down, actually supply blocking Dark at a very critical moment. Mutas have been revealed, and it is go time for Reynor. He charges on forward. He tries to overwhelm Dark with the superior numbers and the superior upgrades, dodging out of the bios. Both sides are. Reynor eats his own bios because he knows he is so far ahead in supply. He feels like he can afford to do it. The Spinecrawler adding quite a bit of damage. Is it going to be enough?
I'm not sure, Ravi. I mean, he's got better upgrades with this as well. The Muta's dealing constant damage, but it just looks like there's too much Reynor at this point in time. Nothing but roaches coming out of the Italian. Nothing but roaches on both sides of things. The Mutas, yeah, they'll tickle these roaches to death, but at what cost? The drone's having to run away as well, which is a great sign. Look at that supply for Reynor. Even making a bunch of Hydras behind this. I think he's definitely got this one, and Dark's feeling the pressure.
Dark gonna finally start to clean this up, and like you said, Ben, at what cost? So many drones going down, and these mutas are not in high enough numbers to threaten a massive counterattack. They don't have the ability to just wipe out a mineral line. You already mentioned the Hydras coming on out, but on top of that, there are Spore Crawlers ready, there are defenses ready, and there are upgrades already finishing up over here for Reynor. Reynor already had a +1 Carapace upgrade against Dark. He's going to have 2 Carapace upgrades against those mutas.
Yeah, and that helps a lot for these Hydras as well with dealing with them. And I dare say when Dark sees this, you just saw the shift in his body, right? That was like a, oh crap, you're already more than prepared. And I don't think he even knows how bad a situation he is in until he saw those Hydras. But he's going to start marching across the map, and I don't think Dark can hold on to this one. He's got a 60 supply deficit here. Oof.
Ben, despite how incredible Dark's defensive capabilities have been in this series so far, I don't think Dark can hold this one. I will be amazed. I will be perplexed and proclaim Dark as the best defensive player of all time if he can somehow make it a hold happen over here. But I think Reynor is going to make that nigh impossible as he charges on forward. The Hydras, the Roaches, dealing out the DPS. The Mutas come home to help try and defend, but it is simply not enough. Reynor ties it up.
Oh, this series, you know, we deserve it as fans. These guys deserve it as players. Is going down to the rubber match here. 2-2 apiece. And regardless of what happens today, mate, they are both some of the best Zergs we've ever seen.
This could have been a grand finals, and I don't think anyone would have batted an eye or thought anything.
It has
worse
been
of
grand finals before.
It
It was the BlizzCon grand final where they were both the two best players in the world pretty much. And here, meeting in the quarterfinals, it's a shame to see one of them go. But that is what Katowice is all about. This is the World Championship. This is the LAN that we've all been waiting for over the past 2 years. And Dark, for the first time maybe, looking not quite as zen as he has been doing throughout this series.
It is difficult for even the absolute best of players to remain totally calm, to remain totally composed after such a long and grueling series, or long and grueling tournament, or long and grueling year to get here, and know that it all comes down to one map that decides whether or not you have a chance to continue on forward and potentially claim another global championship, or whether you get knocked out in the round of 8.
Oh, by golly, by golly. Can you imagine? Right now, both these players guaranteed $20,000. Moving on to the next stage guarantees you $40,000. And for both these players, with how well they're actually playing, the world's the limit. $170,000 is first place, but it just goes up crazily from each step onwards. Both of them want it, but more so than the money, the prestige. Reynor, the reigning Katowice champion. Dark, pretty much the reigning BlizzCon champion, which, you know, he's going to be forever pretty much at this point. But yeah, crazy, crazy stuff to think about.
Raynor getting a cheeky smile on his face as the crowd continues to cheer him on, feeding him some energy, something that I think Raynor has absolutely been vocal about missing, that offline event experience. The fact that he has been one of those players that plays better in front of a crowd, we have absolutely seen as we get the chance, calling out for Raynor to take one final map here in this best of 5.
Raynor's like, hey man, can we sort out this chair? Because I can play even more perfect than I have been playing so far. So just going to get that sorted out for him.
The throne should be higher.
The throne should be higher.
The throne should be higher of my championship, yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. Dark sat there, ready, poised. What will the final map be between these two players? In fact, it could be a real weird one. Because at this point, this is kind of the map that they left out almost. Like we played both their picks.
This almost, to me, Ben, would have been my guess of Pride of Altaris ending up as one of these maps where neither one of them wanted to veto it, neither one of them wanted to play it, but we've already seen that, so I'm not even sure. Blackburn maybe as an option or something along those lines?
If it is Blackburn, I'll be very surprised, but it absolutely could be. I mean, what's left in the pool? We've got Blackburn, Curious Minds, and then... I'm doing that pro gamer thing where it's like, I have no freaking idea about the last map.
Yeah, I'll let you stay on that ledge yourself there, Ben. I'm feeling fine over here, not attempting.
I was just thinking about the maps that are still in the pool, and I was thinking about Beckett, but obviously that's not there. Anyhow, guys, we're going to go to a short break and let these players sort out their stuff. Stay tuned.
We are back, ladies and gentlemen. Game number 5 is the only thing remaining in this series, but can you believe it? If I told you that this is just the first quarterfinals, we still have more matches of StarCraft after this incredible series. We still have Maru versus Serral coming up later, to Muslim.
What a treat. I mean, I've been waiting for that matchup for like 4 years now, for real. At least on LAN, you know, where they're both on absolute equal terms. But, oh, gotta forget about that one for now. Dark versus Reynor, 2-2. $20,000 guaranteed right now, but potentially $170,000 for either one of these. $20,000 extra just for this single map. And also the chance to be crowned world champion. Spawning over the top right of 2K Atmosphere, representing Clash one final time possibly, it is Reynor.
And down over here in the bottom left-hand side of the map, a man of patience, a man of power from Dragon Phoenix Gaming, he is Dark.
Almost sad to see either one of them go out at this point, honestly. Like some of the games that they've both delivered. Reynor dominated his group stage, has looked phenomenal so far, even in this series, honestly. And Dark, you know, came second in that group stage, only to Serral. Absolutely dismantled Trap. Like they just looked a different class altogether. And then here, locking horns with Reynor, the young Italian. Oh, beautifully matched. This is the kind of series where no matter what happens afterwards, the amount of respect that both these guys have gained for one another just goes through the roof.
100%. I am almost a little bit grateful that it is the unbiased game of StarCraft, something that does not care about your history or anything, that decides who is going to advance on, because I think it would be heartbreaking if anyone else had to figure out which one of these players didn't deserve to move on. But StarCraft and these tournaments are a cruel, cruel situation sometimes, and it is a brutal, brutal world. Only one player can be crowned a champion, Ben.
Certainly is. But both these guys, titans of the Zerg race, still all the 5 best Zergs in the world still remain. Reynor, Dark, Solar coming up next against Hero Marine. We still have Serral, obviously, and Rogue over there in the other side of the bracket. Oh, it's a treat for Zergs, man. There's so many of them, so many of the good ones left. They're so consistent, these little buggers.
Yeah, they are doing incredible, incredible work here in these games and showing us some fantastic games. Now, one big question that has been answered over the course of the past 4 games is who has been the person to attack first? Who has been the person to put pedal to the metal and say, let's start cranking out some units, getting across the map and seeing what we can get done? And it has actually been a little bit more back and forth on that. Both of these players have been the aggressor in different situations. Even in the situations where we went hyper late and defensive, it has also been Dark oftentimes. Yeah,
we haven't seen like a super different early game playstyle, so to speak. I'm sure an expert could come along and be like, well, actually, it does this. But within regards to once it gets to mid to late game, Dark obviously likes to go for that defensive style, kind of turtling up, finding his spot. Sometimes it takes a good 35 minutes to really leap forward and then go for the kill. But yeah, Reynor, on the other hand, likes to go for these early mid-game kind of ways about the game. Tends to use the Roach Ravager composition a little bit more. We actually haven't seen a true standard Roach Ravager game at all in this series, and Reynor is going to be going with the tried and true. Starts up that very early Evo, and yet again.
Yes, he does. And I think one of the questions we'll have to have answered in just a little bit is what upgrade he's going to be going for on that.
For a second there, sorry, I got a little...
yeah, I was waiting for
I was a little like, oh my god, is he skipping? But no, he certainly isn't. Speed finishes up for both players. Dark going for his Evo around the same time that he did in the game before. This could be the absolute same situation as the game before, depending... For
those who did not see it, there was a half a second where Dark started a burrow, decides to cancel that instead. We are going to end up just seeing another Baneling or two being added on over here, but missile attack coming out for Reynor. He cancels the melee upgrade and goes for missile attack, and cancels a Roach Warren and starts it back up again.
Yeah, I think that he probably misplaced the Roach Warren a little bit for his wall off, but Early lair starting up for Reynor here, so that is his course of action. By the way, the burrow, I wonder if like Dark started it very quickly to show the hatchery was moving, just knowing the Reynor would see that, and then hoping that there would be some reaction. This is me going Giga Brain over here, but it might mean absolutely nothing. Maybe it was just a misclick. But Scout will go off. Reynor seeing the lair, and when it started, that's actually a really big deal. Well scouted by Reynor.
Being able to have the information really irons out a lot of possibilities. It's not so much about what build, knowing exactly what build you will be up against, but it really, really removes a lot of the possibilities of builds you know you won't have to worry about.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Dark already putting on quite a bit of pressure here. These Banelings cannot sneak in. The Queen in good position. And that is a juicy Baneling hit. And now look at the little Lings getting in quite a few kills. Decent cleanup by Reynor. That could have been a lot worse, but he has to be so careful about future Lings getting in here.
Yeah, a lot of the Lings for Raynor seem like they're maybe on the other side of the map. The Baneling does manage to find a connection, and he gets quite a few drones. 6 drones going down so far for Raynor. He's been doing a good job keeping saturated, though. Remember, all those Banelings, all those Lings are an investment that are not drones. We still, at the end of the day, see Raynor's ahead in army or worker supply, but his army supply is still a bit further behind now as the roaches start to come out.
Certainly are. These Banelings aren't getting the hits that they need. Reynor dealing with that very, very well on his side of the map. Roach speed does start up for Dark. And he does have a few roaches out on the field as well, which Reynor has seen. But you're totally right. Oh, those Banelings cannot finish. Okay, okay.
Oh, Reynor.
Oh, okay, Reynor dealing with that very well, actually. I love the fact that he was respecting the Baneling morph. 17 drones at once. Dark, you absolute madman. Then he starts up a Spire as well. Dark is such a crazy guy, man.
So hard to predict, so hard to get a read on, and we will see as an Overlord, I believe, is making its way in from Reynor to Dark side of the map. An Overseer, in fact, will be able to get a nice scout on the just saturation coming on out. Sees the Spire as well, a scout that he was not able to get in some of the previous games on that Spire building from Dark. How is Reynor going to be responding?
The supplies can be a little bit deceiving here because Dark, even though he's, you know, a good 15 supply behind, he had a big mineral bank there, and he did climb pretty damn high when it came to the drone count. But Reynor, his response, getting out a Hydralisk Den. That's obviously pretty good against the Mutas. Oh, he left that Queen? Oh, he's giving mercy. He's like, no, I want a fair game, mate. Let's go at it.
I'll leave you alive to tell the others the tale of how terrible I am.
No. But yeah, Infestation Pit starts up for Reynor as well. So he's kind of gearing up to be like, all right. I can play that kind of defensive game too against Mutas, given that I couldn't really punish you for making that Spire. But I'm very curious what Dark's going to do. He is obviously saving up some resources for a few Mutas, and that is exactly what he's going to go for. And Reynor wants to spot exactly what's going on. Does have the Overlord speed, obviously, so this Overseer super damn quick. But if Lurkers get out for Reynor, that's going to be quite a head start for him when it comes to tech of the main army that you want to go for.
And very much so a role reversal from some of those longer games we've seen in this series so far. Mutas are now popping on out, and Reynor did have an idea that they were going to be coming. I want to note that it is just the light number of Mutalisks. There are still a lot of roaches being made. The +2 missile attack upgrade also, and just more or less of non-stop roaches being added on over here for Dark as he adds on a ton more. And maybe looking to make a little attack with +2 weapons.
I think Dark's planning on doing a similar thing to what Serral did against him in Game 2. A few Mutas, then into a full-out Roach Ravager push. Like, obviously, Serral landed on the Banelings later on, but this game, I don't think it really calls for it. Like, this could be a really scary attack from Dark, but he was a little bit supply blocked here. So meaning that he can't quite get out the number of units that he really wants. But if he hits before these Lurkers and stuff come online, that'll be a scary-ass attack.
Yep, we do have some Hydras on the way over here with Reynor having finished up his Lurker Den. Hive also about to finish up. He's not morphing any Lurkers. Now he starts up those Lurkers. I think the Hydras only just now popped. 3 Lurkers on the way is going to be a big deal. And I do believe we have some more Roaches on the way there for Dark. How many Ravagers does he actually have? He has 4, which is enough to start trying to corrosive bile down a couple of these Lurkers, but maybe a little bit shy on the damage if he does have to go up against them.
Okay. Reynor with a very mature pull there on the drones, keeping them all alive. Lurkers will start coming out here. He's starting to get the wrap around on Dark. This is huge. The Lurkers are sniped off very quickly by Dark, along with the hatchery as well. The supplies, though, tell a very different story. Reynor doing such a good job of keeping units alive. And look at Dark's supply, absolutely plummeting.
Reynor doing a fantastic job just cornering that army, saying, if you want to get the hatchery, you can get the hatchery, but I'm going to get your entire darn army. We see more roaches on the way for Dark as he tries to replenish the supply he just lost. The Mutas are going to try and buy a little bit of time, and Reynor reestablishes his base, adds on some more Hydras, and I assure you, thinking about trying to find a way to replenish that lurker count, and he's going to be in a really solid position if he's able to just take advantage of the lurkers again.
Dark's playing catch-up tech-wise at this point. He's starting his hive now. He's starting that lurker den. The one advantage he does have, these mutas, which can be a little bit of a pest, but also he's on 4 bases here. So he is going to be mining just a little bit more than his opponent. But Reynor, yeah, if he can amass quite a lurker squad here, which he absolutely can, Dark isn't able to break him. This might turn into a very, very stalematey sort of game at this point.
What's going to be interesting to me is whether or not Reynor feels comfortable moving out once his lurker upgrades finish up. Since he's gotten that high for a bit, he's got that upgrade getting closer and closer to finishing. He's also closing in on a maxed out point. I really wonder if Reynor is going to think this is maybe a bit of a time to shine and to get up into my opponent's face, put a little pressure on before my opponent can get out lurkers himself in high numbers with those upgrades, or if he's going to be holding back. And right now, as the upgrade finishes up, we see Reynor remains at home, starts up +3 missile tech and some additional drones. He's going to try and draw this out a little longer.
Dark's doing everything he can with these mutas, by the way. He's killing drones, he's killing creep tumors. Reynor's also trying to deal a little bit of damage with his roaches, gets to see that lurkers are out for Dark as well. And Dark, maybe that was a scary period of time there, but sniping that hatch and just kind of catching back up on the tech-wise, very good for him, and he will start his Viper production now. I'm not sure if it started for Reynor yet, but yeah. If you are a Reynor fan, we know what happened in the previous couple of games when this kind of situation started to settle, and it wasn't pretty. But he just started up his own Vipers now. That's very important.
Oh boy, Ben. I was laughing and chuckling because I saw all the spore crawlers coming down for Dark and just immediately thinking of some of the previous games. But we also see additional spore crawlers coming down here for Reynor. And I actually really wonder, just the way he's been playing this game out, it seems a bit more patient, but Lurker is going to be whittling away at these roaches, but in the meanwhile, the roaches have nothing else to attack except for the drones, so quite a few of them are going to be going down over here.
Oh, gets a lurker on his way out as well. I mean, roaches eventually, it's not really a unit you want too many of, because eventually your whole ground army becomes lurkers and hydras pretty much, because they're the real damage dealers. And hopefully with the Vipers, you can just assist them in any way possible. So not a bad trade overall from Dark, but this becomes a matter of gas at this point. Who can get more of it? Who can like keep more of it alive as well when it comes to the game of who can pull more?
Yeah, both these players are getting up to nice, healthy drone counts, 78, and soon to be, I would say, something close to around 70 for Dark, as he is still making many, many spores, which does take the drone count a little bit lower. So he's going to have to keep remaking those. Flock of Overlords, maybe getting a little too far out into the map, are going to pull back to the Spore Forest where they are a little bit safer and sound. But nice little snipe off over here from Raynor. I think he should be able to get this hatchery without too many problems.
This was like the first base of Dark I've seen in a while that wasn't covered in spore crawlers and lurkers.
Yeah.
Like, Raynor's probably as surprised as we are with the fact that that was as easy as it was. But for Dark in this series, it hasn't felt like he needed 5 bases. It was like, okay, I need 3 or 4 really to get going. So even though it's a sigh of relief for Raynor, just keep him at bay. Still, we know Dark is very dangerous.
Yeah, you know, another snipe off on this base. I do want to note that this is starting to become a situation where Raynor, yes, he's being the aggressor again and finding these little pickouts, so I think he's being a bit more, I'd say, patient about it. Oh, outside of this little move forward. But he has been building up a lot more of a bank, but he's got a similar army composition and everything, and he seems more willing to draw this out. I wonder if he is adapting from his previous games and saying, I'm going to do the similar style, but I'm not going to be as aggressive. I'm just going to take more of the map because you're staying so defensive, and with more of the map, I'll just mine you out while taking slightly more efficient trades than before.
Could be, could be. You have to learn to adapt. If you're losing something in a series, if you can do it too, it's worth picking up and adjusting and attuning your play. But Raynor's been trading more efficiently this game.
Yep.
Nidus on the way for Dark. Ooh, this is something he hasn't shown us too much so far yet. Like, he had that game on In fact, I've almost forgot what it was called now, but he did throw a Nidus out against Reynor.
Yes.
That Glittering Ashes, obviously. Oh, Ben, your brain, you're getting old, you're getting old.
It's been a long day and a long series, Ben. Don't worry about it. But yeah, that Nidus Swarm play really got shut down. It was a much earlier Nidus Swarm, very much so a timing attack that Dark had been trying out. In this situation, we're going to see the Overseer come on forward, but as the Nidus Swarm is finishing up, we already see that there are a few Spore Crawlers or Spine Crawlers being built over here. Not sure which those are.
They certainly are. In fact, there's not too much coming back over here.
Spines, actually.
I think this is going to get up.
Yeah, the Spines are not going to finish in time for this.
Oh, and okay, only 2 Lurkers. I mean, again, I have PTSD from this kind of situation as a Terran player. Oh, okay. Now I'm getting true PTSD, Ravi. This could be a main base that is almost forfeit, but Reynor luckily does have a lot of Vipers here, but the Lurkers getting good position. That's a lot of Lurkers. It certainly is, and this is going to be very hard for Reynor to clean up. He does have vision. In fact, Dark doesn't have vision at all, does he? Where's his Overseer gone? Oh,
that's going to be a big problem. I think it's a little bit further back. Now, we do end up seeing some of the Lurkers get behind the mineral line, starting to pick away at some of those forward units there from Reynor, but Reynor is definitely getting the better end of a lot of these trades. Doesn't end up losing that much.
I think Reynor, what he did there, I think he sniped the Overseer. It has to be the case. Like, I think he abducted it immediately, realizing the weakness of that army, and then utilized his own Lurkers very well. Now Reynor looking to do some counter damage, quite possibly on the left side of the map. Reynor again, though, he's absorbing the map, expanding more than his opponent, but he can't get too carried away.
I think this is such a massive difference from the previous games, Ben. You saw the resources lost tab, as our wonderful observer was pointing out earlier on. Reynor is drastically far ahead in terms of cost efficiency, and you look at the bank that he has. 6K in minerals in the bank, almost 3.5K gas. Dark is just trying to remax. He's remaking drones to make more spores. Those buildings are going to be an unaccounted for advantage that Dark has that isn't reflected in the supply or the army counts or the worker counts. But at the end of the day, if the game continues at this exact kind of pacing, Reynor is actually going to be the one that comes out on top.
This is such a hard map to split, though, in this matchup. Like, it really is. Because technically, what does Dark do? Does he go up the top left of the map, or does he secure the bottom 3 bases? It's a difficult choice. It really is. It looks like he's going to be going for the bottom right 3 bases, but that's where Reynor is postured. And Reynor, he's not playing. Oh my goodness, that was a right meat grinder. But Reynor's postured not to be super aggressive here. It's just trying to slow down Dark, really hold him on this side of the map. He's even got an army postured on the far left as well.
He is getting ready to hit from multiple sides and forcing Dark to be ready on multiple different angles. All the Vipers are down over here on the south side for Dark, but he's also got a ton of spores, a handful of these spines, and a lot of lurkers. These Vipers are going to have a hard time finding too many abducts, but we'll see if Reynor decides to go for any regardless, even if he just decides to go for the Overseers or something to knock out some of the gas units.
Certainly. Lurkers here, there, and everywhere, just trying to deal whatever harass they can, being very, very annoying. Reynor's already accumulated a really sick bank, man, so even if he does lose an army, as long as he's given time, he can absolutely get it back. And look, the War of Vipers has begun, and quite a lot of pulls going down from both sides here. Nice Blinding Cloud to try and stop these Hydras from dealing too much damage from Dark, and both of them realizing that they need more Vipers.
Yeah, I do think that there is a little bit, again, of a difference here. Reynor isn't constantly trying to poke forward and force in a fight on multiple different angles or constantly trying to posture around. It really does feel like he's a bit more content just saying, I'm going to sit outside over here. Now, he is bleeding off a handful of units to the Viper pulls of Dark, so Dark is finding some more cost-efficient trades here and there, but I really like this sort of game that Reynor is playing, where he's actually willing to just say, yeah, you really want to draw this out? Sure, but I am mining more than you, I have a bigger bank than you, and as long as I stay defensive over here and don't overcommit, you are going to run out of resources faster.
I'm going to be honest, Ravi. I'm starting to, as this game goes on, I'm starting to get a little more scared for Reynor, because I liked his position not too long ago, but we all saw what Dark was capable of earlier in this series when it got to this kind of game, this slow approach. And look, Dark's starting to break out of this. In games before, he was on 3 base in this situation, 4 base in this situation. Now he's on 5. He's a lot wealthier than he was before.
Kill on one of those hatcheries rather than to cancel. Another lurker does end up falling. A couple of lurkers end up falling, or I should say rising into the abyss that is 2K Atmospheres. A lot of roaches going down over here as Reynor starting to take quite a few losses. He's still got an extremely solid bank, almost triple the amount of gas and double the amount of minerals that Dark has available. But you're absolutely right, Ben, that it does feel like Dark is finding a few more victories in these trades, more so than Reynor.
Certainly. I mean, Dark, from what I've seen so far in this series, he's absolutely one of the best at this, maybe the best even. And right now you can see Reynor, maybe that little idea of no, not again is starting to get to him. Wants to be able to bust his opponent, but Dark's doing such a good job with his Vipers, and wow, that lurker body, a little away.
I really do need to go to a different place. There, people do need them.
Certainly, certainly. Reynor getting a few decent trades here, there, but that is, okay, that was a nice pullback by him. The Spore Crawlers, that is something that we haven't seen Reynor do so much with the offensive Spore Crawlers, but look at Dark. 37, more than double on the map, and all of Reynor's, I think, are all defensive. Or cashing a 1 or 2 lurkers out of place here on his side of the map. Dark's bank is definitely amassing as well, but the gas bank definitely better for Reynor.
Yeah, that gas bank is going to be massively in favor of Reynor for the moment, but if this base does go up, it's going to become, I feel like, the tense spot, because yes, Reynor is taking some bases in the bottom right, but nothing quite as close between this base and the bases that Reynor has going for him, and especially that choke point, where Reynor is currently holding his 2 Spore Crawlers and his 2 lurkers. That does not look like a choke point. I can't imagine trying to get any units through that right now, Ben.
No, certainly. Both of them just posturing here. This is very much like a TVT almost at this point, where both players don't really want to attack one another, but when they do, the defender certainly has a little bit of an advantage, and that poor little lurker boy, another poor little lurker boy. Ooh, okay, not so poor. Very, very fortunate lurker boy. More lurkers coming out into the map. What's the Viper count? 8 to 9 apiece, 25 lurkers for Dark. Reynor's army is still so Hydra heavy. It's got roaches in the mix. Whereas Dark, he's like, you know what? I don't need any roaches whatsoever. Let's just go pure Hydra, but a lot of lurker.
Interesting to note that I believe that is Reynor that is controlling the Xel'Naga Watchtower over here as well. And it's funny, every single time he abducts these units into the Xel'Naga Watchtower, he's losing control of it, but he has pretty good vision of the exact placement of his army. I think that can actually be a very nice advantage when you're dealing with the Vipers, but oh, this Nidus Storm going up very secretly, not to Reynor's notice, and we end up seeing this hatchery in the bottom right going to be going down. We could even see a few more units going down, or 40 more bases in this bottom right-hand side.
That's not a bad little catch from Dark, is it? Taking out a base here. Granted, these lurkers are almost forfeit at this point, but they do take quite a little bit of focus here to clean up, which we are seeing. Their fight is still raging on over in the top left-hand side, though. But look how much Dark has here. See all these little blue lines happening? Yeah, every one of those Spore Crawlers. But Reynor does clean that up in the bottom right-hand side. But the war of abducts, the Scorpios of the sky, do reign supreme.
This is going to be an interesting spot over here, though, because you see that we are, again, at that choke point. And yeah, there's a Xel'Naga Watchtower over there that's going to now be going, it looks like, in favor of Dark if he can get a unit over there safely that doesn't just get abducted. Looks like he's actually going to rely on Changelings for the moment, which Reynor counters with his own Changelings. I actually love that. Is going to get cleaned up, but this is, I think, the sort of stalemate position. I think this is going to be where it's the most difficult for Dark to continue on forward. And if he can break on forward from there, that is where I see Dark maybe able to make something happen.
As long as Dark doesn't let Reynor mine from that base that he literally just took at the south there, it will be a total split map. Which, in that case, if Dark continues trading like he is doing, which is phenomenal, by the way, taking out so many Vipers apiece, but I still think, yeah, Dark's catching up on that resources lost tab, which is insanity when you think about it.
Only about 4,000 resources away. A Roach, a single Roach, not actually able to attack and kill this Nice Storm, but I think with the Lurkers and the Hydras arriving, he will just barely be in the nick of time to shut down this Nice Storm before a whole lot happens. He is able to do that. I'm actually really curious, Ben, how would you feel about Reynor getting Nidus Storms up of his own just for some extra mobility on his units?
I mean, it could be decent, but I mean, what's the goal with the Nidus? Is it to shut down bases that Dark isn't taking? Is it to take out the Hive in the main, which there's so many spores knocking about, right?
Yeah.
Like, getting a unit there is so damn tricky. I think it's difficult to say, but I think it's best beating Dark at his own game and maybe adding Reynor's twist to it. So immediately with that south base, trying to grab the gases, trying to mine him out a little bit.
I think that absolutely makes sense. And we do see Dark making quite a bit of progress over here, but Vipers being abducted on both sides. We're also seeing blinding clouds coming down on both sides as well. At the end of the day, it does look like a lot of trades happen. I actually feel like the battle reports might be useful for some of these abduct battles that are going on back and forth between both of these players. But well, on the south side of the map, it does look like Dark is trying to progress a little bit further forward. He's having trouble on that side, but I think being able to make a bit of advancement on this north side is Dark.
I think so as well. Reynor kind of switching focus over here, and I like this by him because we talked about the importance of this base down here. So if he can secure that and maybe do a little bit of pushing of his own, that could be very nice for the young Italian.
I'm actually just realizing now, Ben, I think that if Dark wants to deny mining from that low ground base, I think he could put a lurker up on the high ground. He might actually be able to deny all mining there.
He might be able to, but maybe the gas is a little bit too far away, which is the important bit, right? But
yeah.
Oh, again, Viper trades going down in the north here. Reynor still with a very healthy Viper count of his own, and yeah, it might be a little bit far away from the gas, and that's the all-important resource at this point, because look at Dark. His gas getting pretty low at this point, and every unit matters. Every overseer that gets yoinked, that's 50 gas down the drain, and look at Reynor, easy pickings.
Yeah, actually enough overseers to just tie the Dark. In fact, a little supply block. Very minorly supply blocked, but it is a supply block nonetheless.
I do like the fact that he's going for a Nidus network on that base that's literally right next to his bases as well. But
you know what? It actually makes a lot of sense because he is being contained out of that base by lurkers on the high ground. So if you just circumvent that, then you can deny the mining very easily for the low ground.
Certainly. Nice defensive play by Dark there. That can get a little bit scary with how much damage the lurkers do. And both of them, look, utilizing these Vipers. And we've seen two mirrors today. A TVT that was all about defensive play, and this CVZ maybe surpassing it when it comes to defensive play almost, which is crazy to think about.
Yeah, Ben, I'll have to take a look at the exact timestamps of how long this series has been going on, but I do remember the other series went on for roughly 2 hours. Oh, nice abducts there from Dark. Gets a parasitic bomb out at the very last second. Actually, two of them, but not going to be dealing enough damage to pick off any of those Vipers. And this lurker play from the Nidus Worm lurkers. Oh, the Hydras over here for Dark, though, getting caught by Reynor. Reynor getting some massive pickups here.
Until that happened, I thought Dark was absolutely finding his way back into this. But as soon as it happened, Dark's head, he knew he made a little bit of a mistake there. A bit of a boo-boo. You saw it absolutely shift.
Gas bank is gone. Dark actually has next to no gas, and Reynor is almost at 9,000 gas.
Yeah, Reynor's definitely playing a smart game when it comes to zone control and map control, and definitely taking it more patiently, isn't he? This is really good play by the Italian.
This is absolutely insane. I love just the adjustments that Reynor has been making, just being more patient. And he hasn't actually been going for the massive Spore Crawler Forest or anything like Dark has, but he just seems to be more willing to do very minor skirmishes on the outskirts rather than trying to find angles and commit hard to them.
No, certainly. Look at this. Both of them would love to engage and just obliterate the other one, but how do you do it with so many lurkers on the field? Lurkers, absolutely one of the best units here in this situation for just destroying large amounts of ground on the floor. And the Vipers, they're the best at making those lurkers redundant. So that's why you see this mix being so prominent.
Yeah, I want to stress, by the way, as we see more of these abducts coming out for both sides, that this is truly an exhausting style to play. This has already been an exhausting event again, but both of these players had to play a series earlier today. They've been at the venue, they've been waiting around, they've been practicing, gearing up, getting ready mentally for this match, and then you have so many games that are like this where we've already seen many times before that singular mistakes can really cost you so much.
Raynor didn't have to play earlier though. That was good for him.
Yeah, that is true, actually. That is a very good point. Reynor coming in a little bit more fresh, but I will say I've seen him at the venue the entire day.
That's true. He's been prepping. Look at that gas income, by the way. Is Dark down to literally like 5 geysers at this point? In fact, 4 geysers. He's really going to have to break out of whatever's happening here. And Reynor's, look at that, 11K, 10K. but he still can't really do much with it just because... Oh, that is a massive switch down to the bottom, though.
The entire army, more or less, does rotate down to the bottom, and actually, this is going to be the response here from Reynor. He says, okay, let me kill everything here on the top left-hand side. And you know what, Ben? Given the fact that Dark is in such an awkward economic position, we're going to see a situation where Dark is losing almost every single mining base, and I'm not really sure the same can be said for Reynor.
All right, how much gas is left in all these bases here, especially in the bottom right section of the map? Because if Dark is technically giving up that top left side, if he got all the rich Vespane gas, then it could be a good trade. If he's done the calculations here, so no gas there in that rich gas, I've taken out this as well. Like, every little bit of gas matters. If he calculated that there's more to gain in that bottom right, then it is a genius move. And we do see there is quite a bit remaining here.
Can we get the battle report pulled up? I would love to see how many, not just the units, but actually, how many of these things have gone down. All right, it doesn't actually show the spore crawlers and spine crawlers, unfortunately. I was really curious because we had so many of those spores up in the top left, and yeah, you can move unfortunately a bug, but you can move all of those units through the Naya Storm. You can't move the spores through the Naya Storm, so all of them were locked up at the top left, and so many of them went down.
All right, all things said and done, Reynor's down to 12 drones.
Well, thankfully he does have close to a 9K bank, so he can get away with fewer drones, but I'd actually say it's a bigger problem than Dark. If he wants to take all these bottom right-hand bases, that's all well and good, but if you're maxed out and only have 21 workers, I don't know how long it's going to take you to mine out those bases.
It's going to take a little bit of time, but time is what he has. Or maybe not. Reynor's sharking around. Reynor, I love the fact that he's getting more lurkers in the mix, realizing how many Dark has here, because those lurkers are really the bad boys of the ground. But a lot of Vipers on both sides. Oh my goodness. This almost turns into a game of Warcraft 3 at this point. It's all about the micro of both of these armies. There's still a lot of gas in this bottom right, by the way. Like, a lot of gas. I think that was a really good move by Dark to go for it.
I think part of the problem here, though, is that it's not just a gas limitation for Dark. He's also down to 800 minerals as well. I think he needs more drones to actually keep up with how often these two players are trading. Because I actually think, in terms of how often Vipers are getting abducted, or Lurkers are getting abducted, or Hydras are getting picked off, even the Overseers going down, I actually think these two players have been trading often enough that it will be more than 24 workers worth of mining.
I didn't quite get that. But
I think these players are losing more resources than 24 workers worth of mining can mine per minute, basically. I think that Dark is actually going to slowly start losing army supply because I don't think he can replace it fast enough.
Potentially. But we'll see what he can muster here, because it's so hard to attack, man. And as long as he has spore crawler fields and stuff, and if Reynor gets impatient, all it takes is for one move to go awry on his side. And even things like this, every time that Reynor takes a fight, all right, so there was about 5,000 gas left in this, or in fact, I think there was like 7,000 gas left in this bottom portion of the map. So we've got, 2K a piece here. I think like 2K a piece at the bottom bit. Obviously, there's none in this rich gas. Yeah, a good 3K over there as well. So we absolutely can catch up. Even a little bit of gas over there, but maybe it comes down to the wire and we start going for that as well. But truly mining out the map. How much was, okay, so about 2.5K over there. Okay, that rich gas as well. Oh, I mean, Reynor's still going to be ahead when it comes down to the gas count, and especially if he makes little trades like that. Nice Viper play.
Yep, 8 Vipers to 6 right now. More Vipers being made there for Dark, I believe, as he does dip down from 700 gas down to 350 or so. Reynor's gas count isn't going as high as quickly, but again, it is still just a bit higher, and now we're starting to see more of these Vipers, more of these Overseers getting picked off. Dark is actually a little bit supply blocked, so he can't replenish any of that supply he just lost. He's making a bunch more Overlords. This is becoming, again, a tense situation. I do feel like it might be in Reynor's best interest. Obviously, he's still entering to take cost-efficient trades, but if he can find a way to break through, there is a timing window where if he breaks through, Dark is not going to have enough of a bank to actually replenish it.
Potentially. A little bit of a cheeky spore crawler also finds itself over here with that lurker. Which is quite funny to see. Reynor, he knows that that bottom right-hand side of the map is an absolute gold mine when it comes to that extra gas that Dark can get. And He knows what a cockroach he's been in the series as well, managing to muster himself out of these horrible situations. But Dark, for the first time, is having to fight far away from creep without all the spore crawlers, and you can see how much of a difference that's making for Reynor here. This is Reynor's playground.
He is continuing to find so many of these abducts, so many of these pickoffs, finding lurker after lurker, overseer after overseer. So many overseers have actually gone down, 19 of them. Finding a Viper as well as a blinding cloud gets thrown down, but to what end? Still ends up getting picked off. And Reynor still continuing to keep a hold of that bank. Down to 4 Vipers actually is Dark.
Yeah, Reynor's actually trading
3 Vipers.
super well now. Like, you might be wondering, well, why doesn't Dark back off? Why doesn't he get to his spore crawlers and stuff? I think he's really utilizing the vision on this watchtower, but he's going in for it. Yeah, he certainly is. He realizes that maybe Reynor overstepped his mark, but oh my goodness, Reynor's trading really well in some of these engagements.
I just think without unbelievably good blinding clouds, which is going to be tough with only 3 of those Vipers, it is going to be really tough to find an engagement into that kind of number of lurkers. More of these Vipers getting picked off. 2 Vipers remaining now for Dark, and he's actually just replenishing almost entirely on Hydras. And his bank is gone. He has no more minerals. He has next to no gas. He's continuing to mine off of these remaining bases with what workers he has. But at this point, these following engagements are going to be off of just 2 Vipers versus 7.
That is not a fair fight at all, Ravi. Several more Vipers in production, and Reynor's got money for days at this point as well. These next few fights, like Dark, is in a real grim place.
And Reynor, I think, is realizing now that this is going to be such a tough spot for Dark that he is not really able to cover all the
Dark's going to go for a big push.
Yeah.
I think he realizes what kind of terrible situation he's in. And if Reynor doesn't know about this, he could find himself in a real bad position, because running back into position to try and defend against that many lurkers, it could still run all awry for him.
Oh, one of the Vipers gets picked off. The second Viper gets picked off by a Spore Crawler as well. Reynor comes in with a flank of those Hydras on the top side, but they get picked off very, very quickly. Reynor dropping in supply, but so does Dark. A lot of these Hydras are now going to start being able to push on forward into Reynor's territory. These Vipers need the extra support. They need to be able to keep these lurkers alive. And Reynor climbing in supply at 16 Hydras, 12 Roaches, 10 lurkers are on the way.
I think Reynor's done it, mate. I think he's absolutely done it. This amount of units that Reynor has, no Vipers left whatsoever for Dark. Dark realizes he's done a little bit of damage, but he's now on the run, and look at that. Easy pickings for the Italian. Dark running away, and he can't do anything against this army. His army can't shoot. Now he's going to see all these lurkers still alive, and look at him. You can see it on the webcam. He knows that this is it. He can't beat that army anymore, and this, salt in the wound. GG! Reynor takes it. Oh my goodness, he moves into the semi-finals here.